As a federal air marshal, I was trained to spot threats at 30,000 feet. I never expected the real danger was in my own home, where my wife was keeping secrets that would either destroy our marriage or save my life, and she had to choose which one mattered more. Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from down in the comments. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale. Chapter 1. The sunrise painted Virginia Beach in shades of gold and copper as I gripped the yoke of the Embraer 175, feeling the familiar vibration of twin turbofans coming to life beneath my hands. 5:30 in the morning, and already the Atlantic horizon glowed like a promise. This was my favorite part of the day before the passengers boarded, before the flight attendants started their routines, when it was just me and 78 tons of aluminum and composites ready to defy gravity. "Morning, Captain Williams," my co-pilot Jake said, sliding into the right seat with his trademark thermos of what he called coffee, but smelled like burnt rubber. "Beautiful day for flying." "Every day's beautiful at 35,000 feet, I replied, running through my pre-flight checklist with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. But even as my hands moved on autopilot checking instruments, verifying fuel levels, confirming weather reports, my mind was already elsewhere. See, most people knew me as Monty Williams, Federal Air Marshal, guy who sits in the back of planes with a Glock 19 hidden under a boring business suit, watching for threats that thankfully almost never materialized. The Transportation Security Administration liked to remind us that we existed to mitigate threats involving our nation's transportation system, which was a fancy way of saying we were the last line of defense between the bad guys and a plane full of innocent people. What most people didn't know, what nobody except my accountant and lawyer knew, was that Monty Williams also owned a fleet of 12 cargo aircraft operating under shell companies so deeply buried in paperwork that even the IRS would need a treasure map to find them. It started small, the way these things always do. One old Boeing 737 freighter I picked up at auction for less than the price of a suburban house. Fixed it up, leased it out, used the profits to buy another, then another. Now, sitting in the cockpit of this commuter jet that technically belonged to Regional Express Airlines but felt like mine in every way that mattered, I allowed myself a moment of pride. 38 years old, and I'd built something real, something that would last. The irony of being both the shepherd and the wolf wasn't lost on me, protecting planes by day, owning them by night. It was like being Clark Kent if Clark Kent also happened to own the Daily Planet. "Tower, this is Regional Express 447, ready for pushback," Jake said into his headset, pulling me back to the present. "Regional Express 447, you're cleared for pushback. Taxi to runway 27 via Alpha, hold short." The ground crew disconnected the tug, and we began our slow ballet toward the runway. Through the cockpit window, I could see the terminal building starting to wake up, gates filling with early morning travelers clutching coffee cups like life preservers, kids pressed against windows watching planes, business folks already buried in their phones. "You good, Monty?" Jake asked, noticing my distant stare. "You seem a million miles away." "Just thinking about breakfast," I lied. "Philippa's making her famous blueberry pancakes when I get home." Jake groaned. "Man, you hit the lottery with that woman? My wife thinks Pop-Tarts count as cooking." If only he knew how right he was. Philippa was the kind of woman who made other men question their life choices. We'd met 3 years ago at a medical conference in Richmond she was presenting on trauma surgery innovations, and I was there for a mandatory TSA medical evaluation. I'd walked into the wrong conference room, seen this goddess in navy blue discussing hemorrhage control, and decided maybe I was exactly where I needed to be. "Regional Express 447, you're cleared for takeoff, runway 27, winds 240 at 8 knots. "Regional Express 447, cleared for takeoff," Jake confirmed. I pushed the throttles forward, feeling that familiar surge of power as the engines spooled up. The runway lights blurred past, faster and faster, until that magical moment when the wheels left the ground and we were airborne. No matter how many times I did this, that moment never got old. It was like breaking free from everything that held you down, if only for a while. The flight to Charlotte was routine, smooth air, clear skies, the kind of morning that made you grateful to be a pilot. We touched down 90 minutes later, and I was in my truck heading home by 8:30, already imagining the smell of bacon and coffee waiting for me. Our house sat on a quiet street 5 blocks from the beach, a 2-story colonial with white shutters and a front porch that Philippa had turned into her personal botanical garden. Roses climbed the pillars, and hanging baskets overflowed with petunias and million bells. It looked like something out of a magazine, which was pure Philippa. Everything she touched turned beautiful. "Honey, I'm home!" I called out, using my best 1950s sitcom voice as I walked through the door. "In here," she called from the kitchen. I found her at the stove, still in her silk pajamas, her dark hair pulled up in a messy bun that somehow looked intentional. She turned when she heard me, and even after 3 years, that smile still hit me like turbulence at cruising altitude. "How was the flight?" she asked, rising on her toes to kiss me. She smelled like vanilla and something floral jasmine, maybe. Smooth as silk. "Jake says I should be grateful I married a woman who can actually cook." She laughed, a sound that could make a cynic believe in happy endings. "Jake's wife still making him eat those frozen dinners? Pop-Tarts, apparently." Good Lord. She turned back to the stove, flipping pancakes with the precision of someone who'd spent years handling surgical instruments. "Sit. Coffee's fresh and breakfast is almost ready." I poured myself a cup and sat at our breakfast nook, watching her work. The morning light streaming through the window caught her profile, and I found myself thinking, not for the first time, how the hell I'd gotten so lucky. Here was a woman who could literally save lives with her hands, who'd graduated summa cum laude from Johns Hopkins, who could have married anybody and she'd chosen me. "What's your schedule today?" she asked, sliding a plate in front of me. 3 pancakes, 2 strips of bacon, fresh fruit on the side. The woman even made breakfast look like art. "Off until tomorrow. Thought I might head to the office, check on some paperwork." By office, I meant the small suite I rented under another name to manage my fleet operations, but Philippa thought I meant the Federal Air Marshal Field Office. The lies came so easily now, I barely noticed them anymore. "Always working," she said, but her tone was fond. She sat across from me with her own plate, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've got a 12-hour shift starting at noon. Emergency surgery scheduled, plus whatever walks through the door. Saving lives and looking gorgeous doing it." She rolled her eyes, but I caught the pleased smile she tried to hide. "Flattery will get you everywhere, Marshall Williams." We ate in comfortable silence for a while, the kind that comes from knowing someone so well that words become optional. Outside, I could hear the neighborhood waking up, lawnmowers starting, kids playing, the distant cry of seagulls heading inland from the beach. "I was thinking," Philippa said suddenly, "maybe we should take a vacation, somewhere tropical. We haven't been away since our honeymoon." "I'd love that. Where were you thinking? Bahamas, maybe? Or Turks and Caicos?" She reached across the table, taking my hand. Her fingers were soft but strong, surgeon's hands that knew how to fix what was broken. "We could use some time just for us. I'll look into it. Maybe next month?" "Perfect." She squeezed my hand, then glanced at the clock. "I should get ready. Don't want to be late." She stood, taking her plate to the sink, and I watched her go, appreciating the way the silk clung to her curves. 3 years married, and I still felt like a teenager with his first crush. After she left for the hospital, I drove to my real office, a nondescript suite in an industrial park near the airport. The sign on the door read, "Atlantic Aviation Consulting," which was boring enough that no one ever asked questions. Inside was nothing fancy, a desk, a computer, filing cabinets, a small conference table. But those filing cabinets held the paperwork for 12 aircraft worth roughly $60 million, all owned through a Byzantine structure of LLCs and holding companies that would make a tax attorney weep with joy. I spent the morning reviewing contracts, checking maintenance schedules, approving invoices. My fleet was split between cargo runs and charter operations, all managed by a carefully vetted team who thought they worked for a reclusive investor based in Delaware. The money flowed through so many accounts and corporations that tracing it back to me would require a forensic accountant with a lot of time and even more patience. The phone rang around 11. Pete Kowalski, my head of operations. Boss, we've got a problem with the 737 in Memphis. Engines throwing codes. Mechanics say it needs a hot section inspection. How long will it be down? 3 days minimum, maybe 5. I rubbed my temples. A grounded plane was a plane not making money. What's it costing us? About 15 grand a day in lost revenue, plus whatever the inspection runs. Do it. Better to fix it now than have it fail in flight. Roger that. Oh, and boss, that new contract with the pharmaceutical company came through. They want 3 dedicated aircraft for their supply chain. Beautiful. Set up the paperwork, but run it through the lawyers first. After I hung up, I leaned back in my chair, allowing myself a moment of satisfaction. From one broken-down freighter to a fleet generating $2 million a month in revenue. Not bad for a kid from Norfolk who'd joined the Air Force because it was the only way he could afford to learn to fly. My phone buzzed with a text from Philippa. Surgery went well. Missing you already. I texted back. Missing you too. I'll pick up dinner. Thai food? You know me so well. I did know her well, or at least I thought I did. Funny how confidence can feel so much like blindness when you're looking back on it later. That afternoon, I stopped by the hangar to check on my aircraft. Well, one of them, a Cessna Caravan I kept registered under my real name for the times when I wanted to fly without pretending to be someone else. The hangar was part of the general aviation section of Norfolk International, far from the commercial terminals where I usually worked. Afternoon, Mr. Williams, called out Tommy, one of the mechanics. She's all fueled up and ready if you want to take her up. Maybe later. Just wanted to check on her. The Caravan wasn't much to look at, a high-wing turboprop that looked like a flying minivan, but she was reliable and versatile, perfect for short hops along the coast. I ran my hand along the fuselage, feeling the rivets and seams, the slight roughness of the paint. This one was truly mine. No shell companies or fake names required. You ever wonder what it would be like? Tommy asked, joining me. To just take off and keep going? Find some island somewhere, start over? Every pilot thinks about it, I admitted. But then you remember everything you'd be leaving behind. True that. Still, nice to dream sometimes. By the time I got home with takeout from our favorite Thai place, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that no artist could quite capture. Philippa's car was in the driveway, and I could see lights on in the kitchen. Honey? I called out as I entered. Living room! I found her curled up on the couch, still in her scrubs, looking exhausted. Her hair was down now, falling in waves around her shoulders, and she'd kicked off her shoes, revealing pink nail polish that matched the throw pillow she was hugging. Long day? I asked, setting the food on the coffee table. 2 emergency surgeries after the scheduled one. Car accident on I-264, bad one. She rubbed her eyes. Sometimes I wonder if I'm getting too old for trauma surgery. You're 35. That's hardly old. Tell that to my back after standing for 8 hours. I sat beside her, pulling her feet into my lap. Want me to rub them? You are the perfect husband, she sighed, leaning back as I worked on her arches. We ate straight from the containers, too tired for plates, watching some mindless reality show about people buying houses they couldn't afford. Philippa provided running commentary that had me laughing so hard I nearly choked on my pad thai. 6 bedrooms, she exclaimed. Who needs 6 bedrooms? Are they planning to adopt a basketball team? Maybe they just really hate each other and need space, I suggested. Then why get married? Just get 2 apartments. Problem solved. After dinner, we walked down to the beach, hand in hand, shoes dangling from our free hands. The tourist season was winding down, so we had long stretches of sand to ourselves. The moon was rising, full and bright, turning the waves silver. You know what I love about this place? Philippa asked, stopping to face the ocean. What's that? It feels safe, like nothing bad could happen here. She leaned against me, and I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. Richmond was so intense, always sirens and helicopters. Here, it's just peaceful. Virginia Beach, a resort city with miles of beaches. I said, quoting the tourism board. Come for the sun, stay for the tranquility. She laughed. You should write their ads. We stood there for a while, listening to the waves, feeling the salt breeze on our faces. A couple of kids ran past, chasing ghost crabs with flashlights, their laughter carrying on the wind. Somewhere down the beach, someone had built a bonfire, and the smell of wood smoke mixed with the salt air. Monty? Philippa said quietly. Yeah? Are you happy? I mean, really happy? I turned to look at her, surprised by the question. In the moonlight, her face looked younger, almost vulnerable. Of course I am. Why would you ask that? She shrugged. I don't know. Sometimes I worry that you're bored. The marshal job, flying commercial routes, it's all so routine. You used to fly fighters in the Air Force. This must feel like driving a bus in comparison. Hey! I turned her to face me, lifting her chin so she'd meet my eyes. I've got everything I want. A job I enjoy, a beautiful wife who makes me laugh, a house near the beach. What more could I ask for? She searched my face for a moment, then smiled. You're right. I'm being silly. Not silly. Just overthinking. Occupational hazard for surgeons, I'm told. Shut up, she said, but she was smiling as she kissed me. We walked back home slowly, in no rush to end the evening. As we climbed the porch steps, Philippa stopped suddenly. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Someone from the FAA called the hospital today asking for me. My blood chilled, but I kept my voice casual. The FAA? What did they want? No idea. They just left a message asking me to call back. Probably a wrong number or something. Probably, I agreed, but my mind was already racing. Why would the FAA be calling my wife? There was no connection between her and my aviation activities. At least, none that should be visible. That night, as Philippa slept beside me, her breath soft and even, I stared at the ceiling, unable to shake a feeling of unease. It was like flying through clear skies and suddenly seeing a thunderhead on the horizon distant, but definitely there, and definitely coming your way. I thought about my afternoon at the hangar, Tommy's question about taking off and disappearing. Every pilot thought about it, I'd said. But what I hadn't said was that some pilots thought about it because they were dreamers, and some thought about it because they were making contingency plans. I'd always thought I was the former. Now, listening to my wife's peaceful breathing while my mind churned through possibilities, I wondered if I'd been fooling myself. The next morning, I was up before dawn, unable to sleep. I made coffee and sat on the porch, watching the sky lighten from black to gray to pale blue. The neighborhood was quiet except for the birds starting their morning chorus and the distant sound of waves that never stopped. My phone buzzed a text from Pete. Boss, might want to check the news. Something about increased FAA inspections for cargo operators. I pulled up the news on my tablet, finding the article quickly. The FAA was announcing a new round of enhanced compliance reviews for cargo operators, focusing on maintenance records and ownership structures. The official line was improving safety, but reading between the lines it looked like they were hunting for something, or someone. You're up early. I looked up to find Philippa in the doorway, wrapped in her silk robe, hair mussed from sleep. Even worried and distracted, I couldn't help but appreciate how beautiful she looked in the morning light. Couldn't sleep, I said, setting the tablet aside. Coffee's fresh if you want some. She settled beside me on the porch swing, tucking her feet under her. What's wrong? And don't say nothing, I know your worried face. Just work stuff. Some new regulations coming down the pipeline. For the Marshal Service? Yeah, I lied. Bureaucratic nonsense, mostly. She studied me for a moment, and I wondered if she could see through me the way I could read the weather in cloud formations. But then she just nodded, sipping her coffee. I should call that FAA number back today, she said. Clear up whatever mix-up they have. Maybe wait a bit, I suggested, trying to sound casual. Government agencies are terrible about updating their databases. They probably figured out their mistake already. Maybe. She didn't sound convinced. It's just weird, you know? Why would they have my number at all? Your number's probably on some list from when we got married. Government employees have to update their emergency contacts with every agency. The bureaucracy probably just got its wires crossed. It was a reasonable explanation, the kind that would satisfy most people. But Philippa wasn't most people. She had a surgeon's attention to detail and a scientist's skepticism of coincidence. "I suppose," she said slowly. "Still, I might call just to be sure." Before I could respond, my phone rang Jake's number. "Sorry, I need to take this," I said, grateful for the interruption. I walked to the edge of the porch. "Jake, what's up?" "Monty, we've got a situation. Can you come in early? There's some FAA inspector here asking questions about yesterday's flight." "What kind of questions?" "The kind that make me nervous. He's asking about cargo manifests, even though we were flying passengers. Says it's routine, but it doesn't feel routine." "I'll be there in 30. I hung up and turned to find Philippa watching me with concern. "Everything okay?" "Just some confusion at work. I need to head in early." "Be careful," she said, and something in her tone made me pause. "Careful of what?" She shrugged. "I don't know. Just be careful." Driving to the airport, I tried to convince myself this was all coincidence. The FAA announcement, the call to Philippa, now an inspector asking questions, it could all be random bureaucratic noise. But I'd survived too long by trusting my instincts, and right now, every instinct was screaming that something was wrong. The inspector was waiting in the crew room, a thin man with glasses and a clipboard, the kind of guy who looked like he'd been born in a suit and tie. His name tag read R. Davis, FAA Compliance Division. "Captain Williams?" He stood, extending a hand. "Rupert Davis, FAA. I'm conducting routine compliance reviews, and your flight came up in our random selection." "Random. Right. In my experience, nothing the government did was ever random. How can I help you, Mr. Davis?" "Just a few questions about your recent flights, particularly interested in any unusual cargo or passenger manifests." "We fly commercial passengers on scheduled routes. All our manifests are filed with the airline and available through normal channels." Of course. He made a note on his clipboard. "And you've never carried any undocumented cargo? No special requests from management to transport anything off the books?" "That would be illegal, Mr. Davis." "Yes, it would." He looked up at me over his glasses. "You know, Captain Williams, you have an interesting background. Air Force pilot, Federal Air Marshal, commercial aviation. That's quite a range of experience. I like variety." "Indeed. And I'm sure that variety has nothing to do with the 12 cargo aircraft registered to various LLCs that all trace back to accounts you control?" The words hit like clear air turbulence, sudden, violent, completely unexpected. I kept my face neutral, but inside my stomach dropped like we'd just lost both engines. "I'm not sure what you're talking about." Davis smiled, the expression sharp as a blade. "No? Well, perhaps we should discuss it further. My office will be in touch to schedule a more comprehensive review." He left, and I stood there in the empty crew room, mind racing. How had they connected the dots? I'd been so careful, so meticulous. Every corporation had its own EIN, its own bank accounts, its own paper trail that led nowhere. Jake poked his head in. "Everything okay?" That guy gave me the creeps. "Yeah, fine. Just bureaucrats being bureaucrats." But it wasn't fine, not even close. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that my carefully separated worlds were about to collide, and when they did, the explosion would destroy everything I'd built. The sun was high and bright, the sky clear and endless perfect flying weather. But every pilot knew that the most dangerous storms were the ones you couldn't see coming, the ones that formed from clear air and caught you before you could react. And right now, despite the clear skies above Virginia Beach, I could feel the barometric pressure dropping. The storm was coming. Chapter 2. 3 days after Rupert Davis walked into my life with his clipboard and his knowing smile, the certified letter arrived. I was drinking coffee on the porch, watching the morning joggers pass by when the mail carrier walked up with that green card that meant someone wanted proof I'd received whatever bad news they were sending. "Sign here, Mr. Williams." My hand was steady as I signed, but my mind was already racing. The return address was the FAA Mid-Atlantic Regional Office. Inside, the letter was brief and devastating. Notice of comprehensive fleet audit. All 12 of my aircraft were to be grounded pending inspection, effective immediately. Bad news? Philippa asked from the doorway. She was dressed for work, her scrubs pristine, hair pulled back in the French braid she wore for long surgery days. Just bureaucracy, I said, folding the letter and tucking it into my pocket. You know how the government loves its paperwork. She walked over and kissed my forehead. You've been tense lately. Is everything really okay? Everything's fine. The lie came so easily it scared me. Just the usual hassles. Maybe we should move up that vacation. Get away from all this for a while. Maybe, I agreed, though I knew there'd be no vacation. Not now, maybe not ever. After she left, I drove to my office, my real office, where Pete was already waiting with a face that could curdle milk. Boss, we've got problems. Big ones. I know. They've grounded the fleet. It's worse than that. He spread papers across my desk, inspection notices, compliance demands, cease and desist orders. They're not just looking at maintenance records. They're digging into ownership structures, financial records, the works. Someone's painted a target on us. Any idea who? Pete shrugged. Could be a competitor trying to muscle us out. Could be random bad luck. Could be, it's not random. I picked up one of the notices, noting the signature at the bottom. R. Davis, Senior Inspector. This is targeted. I spent the rest of the morning on the phone with lawyers, each one telling me variations of the same thing. Cooperate fully, provide all requested documentation, and hope for the best. But I knew hope wasn't a strategy. Hope was what you did when you'd run out of actual options. Around noon, I got a text from Philippa. Working late again tonight. This new attending is a real taskmaster. Don't wait up. Love you. Something about it bothered me. Philippa never complained about her attendings. She was usually the one pushing everyone else. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. Hey, babe, just checking in. Call me when you get a break. But she didn't call. Not during lunch, not during the afternoon, not during what should have been her dinner break. By 8 o'clock, I was pacing my office like a caged animal, that familiar permission tension building in my gut, the feeling I used to get before flying into hostile airspace. Pete had gone home hours ago, leaving me alone with my paranoia and a stack of federal paperwork that might as well have been my company's obituary. I was contemplating bourbon when my phone finally rang, but it wasn't Philippa, it was Jake. Monty, you need to see the news. Channel 10. I found a stream on my computer. The anchor was talking about a major federal investigation into aviation companies suspected of smuggling. No names yet, but sources suggested multiple cargo operators were involved. Federal agents executed search warrants at several locations today, the anchor said, her voice grave. While officials won't confirm details, sources tell us this investigation involves potential national security concerns. National security. Those two words changed everything. This wasn't about tax evasion or regulatory compliance anymore. This was about the kind of charges that didn't end with fines or suspended licenses. They ended with federal prison. My phone buzzed. Philippa. Still at hospital. Don't wait up. That was the second time she'd said that. Philippa never told me not to wait up. She knew I always did anyway. Something was off. I pulled up her location on Find My Phone, a mutual safety thing we'd set up when she started working late shifts. The dot showing her location was not at the hospital. It was at a hotel near the airport, the Marriott. My blood turned to ice water. There could be explanations. Maybe the hospital was using it for a conference. Maybe she was attending a medical seminar. Maybe I was making excuses for something I didn't want to see. I drove to the hotel on autopilot, my mind churning through possibilities. In the parking lot, I spotted her Lexus in the back row, tucked between two SUVs like she was trying to hide it. My hands were shaking as I walked through the lobby, past the night clerk who barely looked up from his phone. The hotel bar was mostly empty, a few business travelers nursing whiskeys, a couple clearly on an awkward first date. And in the back corner, in a booth partially hidden by a decorative plant, was my wife. She wasn't alone. Rupert Davis sat across from her, leaning forward, talking intently. Philippa was nodding, her hand resting on the table mere inches from his. As I watched, frozen in the doorway, Davis reached over and covered her hand with his. She didn't pull away. I must have made some sound a gasp, maybe. or just the creak of my weight shifting because Philippa looked up. Our eyes met across the bar, and I saw it all in that instant. Guilt, fear, and something else. Resignation, maybe, like she'd been expecting this moment. "Monty," she said, standing so quickly she knocked over her wine glass. Red wine spread across the white tablecloth like blood. "This isn't—" But I was already walking away, my legs moving without conscious thought, carrying me through the lobby and out into the humid night air. Behind me, I heard her calling my name, her heels clicking on the marble floor. But I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. I drove home in a daze, my mind trying to process what I'd seen. My wife, with the FAA inspector who was destroying my business. It was like a bad movie, too convenient to be real, but the image was burned into my retinas. Her hand under his, her face guilty and exposed. She came home an hour later. I was sitting in the dark living room, a glass of bourbon untouched on the coffee table. "Monty, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" My voice sounded dead even to me. "How long? It's not what you think." "How long?" She sank onto the opposite end of the couch, as far from me as she could get while still being in the same room. 6 weeks. 6 weeks. While I'd been planning vacations and rubbing her feet and believing we were happy she'd been. What? Meeting him in hotels, sharing our secrets. "Did you tell him about the planes?" "What?" She looked genuinely confused. "What planes?" "My cargo fleet. Did you tell him about it?" "Monty, I don't know what you're talking about. What cargo fleet?" I laughed, the sound bitter as black coffee. "Right. Of course. We're both keeping secrets, aren't we?" "I wasn't. It wasn't supposed to happen. Rupert came to the hospital asking about you, and we just started talking, and—" "He came to the hospital asking about me?" I stood pacing now. "When?" "About 2 months ago. He said it was routine, background checks for federal employees. We had coffee, and—" She trailed off, wrapping her arms around herself. "I'm so sorry." The pieces clicked together in my mind like a rifle being assembled. Davis hadn't stumbled onto my fleet by accident. He'd targeted Philippa first, used her to get information about me. The only question was whether she'd been a willing accomplice or just another victim of his manipulation. "What did you tell him about me?" "Nothing important. Just normal things. Your schedule, your habits. He said he was interested in you, not as an investigator, but as a friend." "A friend?" The word tasted like ashes. "And you believed him?" "I was lonely." The words exploded out of her. "You're always gone, always working, always distracted. Even when you're here, you're not really here. Do you know what it's like being married to someone who has a whole other life you know nothing about? So you decided to have your own secret life? That's not. I didn't plan this. It just happened." "Nothing just happens, Philippa. You make choices. You chose to meet him. You chose to keep seeing him. You chose to lie to me every single day for 6 weeks. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face, but I felt nothing. It was like watching someone else's wife cry, someone else's marriage implode. "I'll end it," she said. "I'll never see him again. We can go to counseling, we can—" "Did you sleep with him?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. She looked at the floor, and that was answer enough. "Get out. Monty, please. Get out of my house. It's my house, too. Not anymore." I walked to the door and opened it. "You can come back tomorrow for your things. Tonight, you need to leave." She stood slowly, dignity trying to reassert itself despite the tears. "This isn't over. We're married. You can't just watch me." She left, and I closed the door behind her, turning the deadbolt with a click that sounded like the end of everything. I spent the rest of the night in my office, my real office, not the federal building where I pretended to be just another government employee. I pulled every document, every contract, every piece of evidence that connected me to those planes. If Davis was coming for me, I needed to know exactly what he could find. The answer was both reassuring and terrifying. On paper, I was clean. Every corporation was legitimate, every registration legal, every contract above board. But that assumed the paper trail stopped at the LLCs. If someone dug deeper, if they found the common threads connecting all those separate entities back to me. My phone rang at 3 in the morning. Pete. Boss, we've got a problem. 3 of our birds just got flagged by Homeland Security. They're saying something about suspicious cargo. What suspicious cargo? That's just it. There shouldn't be any cargo. They're supposed to be empty, heading back from delivery runs. A chill ran down my spine. Where are the planes now? Miami, Orlando, and Newark. All grounded, all under federal lockdown. 3 planes, 3 different cities, all on the same night. This wasn't random inspection. This was coordinated. Someone had planted something on my aircraft, something that would give the feds probable cause to tear my entire operation apart. Pete, listen carefully. Pull all our people back. Nobody goes near those planes without a lawyer present. And start backing up all our records, financial, maintenance, everything. Store copies somewhere safe, somewhere not connected to the company. Boss, you're scaring me. What's going on? I think we're being set up. After I hung up, I sat in the dark office, mind racing. Davis hadn't just seduced my wife, he'd orchestrated this entire thing. But why? What did he gain from destroying me? Unless he wasn't trying to destroy me. Unless he was trying to use me. I thought about those flagged planes, the suspicious cargo that shouldn't exist. What if Davis had planted something, drugs, weapons, worse, and was planning to discover it? He could leverage that threat to force me to do something. But what? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your wife says you have trust issues. We should talk about that. RD. The bastard was taunting me. Another text. Your planes are very interesting, especially what's hidden in them. Then a third. Let's discuss your options. Hangar 7, Norfolk International, tomorrow at midnight. Come alone. I stared at the messages, anger and fear warring in my chest. This was clearly a trap. But what choice did I have? If there really was something planted on those planes, I needed to know what it was. I drove home as the sun was rising, the sky painted in those deceptively peaceful colors that made you forget darkness existed. The house felt different without Philippa, not empty exactly, but unbalanced, like a plane with its center of gravity shifted too far aft. Her coffee mug was still on the kitchen counter, lipstick marking the rim. Her scent lingered in the bedroom, on the pillows, in the bathroom where her perfume bottles stood like soldiers. I wanted to be angry, to rage and break things, but all I felt was tired. Bone deep, soul-aching tired. I made coffee and sat on the porch, watching the neighborhood wake up. Normal people heading to normal jobs, worried about normal things. None of them knowing that 3 streets over, a man's life was falling apart in high definition. My phone rang. Jake. Monty, did you see the news? What now? They're saying those grounded planes were carrying radioactive material. The FBI's involved now. Radioactive material. The words hit like a physical blow. This wasn't just about smuggling anymore. This was about terrorism. The kind of charges that didn't just end careers. They ended lives. Jake, I need you to listen very carefully. If anyone asks you about me, about our flights, about anything, you say nothing without a lawyer. Understand? Monty, you're scaring me. What's going on? Just promise me. Yeah, okay, I promise, but I hung up. Every conversation now was potentially monitored, every word potentially evidence. Paranoia wasn't paranoia when they really were out to get you. I spent the day methodically preparing. I moved money to accounts Davis couldn't know about. I created encrypted backups of everything. I even wrote a letter to my sister in Seattle, explaining everything, just in case something happened to me. Then I waited. As darkness fell, I drove to the airport, taking a circuitous route to check for tails. Hangar 7 was in the cargo section, far from the passenger terminals. At this hour, it was deserted except for the occasional security patrol. Davis was waiting inside, leaning against a small jet I didn't recognize. He looked different out of his federal inspector costume, younger, more dangerous. Captain Williams, so glad you could make it. What do you want? Direct. I like that. He walked closer, and I could smell his cologne, something expensive, the kind Philippa would notice. What I want is simple. Your planes, your routes, your clean record, all in service of a greater cause. What cause? Let's call it wealth redistribution. You're going to help me move some special cargo. Nothing that will hurt anyone, I'm not a monster. Just some items that certain people want moved without federal oversight. And if I refuse? He pulled out his phone, showed me photos. My planes, but the cargo holds were open, revealing lead-lined containers with radiation symbols. These were taken 3 hours ago. Amazing what Photoshop can do these days. Of course, the FBI won't know they're fake when they receive them anonymously. You son of a bitch. Now. No need for hostility. Think of this as a business partnership. You help me. I help you. Your wife already understands the benefits of cooperation. The mention of Philippa made my hands clench into fists. Leave her out of this. Oh, but she's already in it. Has been from the beginning. He smiled, that sharp expression I remembered from our first meeting. She's quite talented, your wife. In many areas, I moved before I could think, my fist connecting with his jaw in a satisfying crack. He went down hard, blood streaming from his nose. Feel better? He laughed, wiping his face. Good. Get it out of your system, because starting tomorrow you work for me. First shipment leaves in 3 days. Details will be sent to your office. I'll go to the feds myself. Tell them everything. With what proof? A respected FAA inspector's word against a pilot who owns a secret fleet of cargo planes? Who do you think they'll believe? He stood, straightening his jacket. Besides, your wife's already given me some interesting information about your off-the-books activities. Did you really think she didn't know about the planes? That stopped me cold. What? Oh, yes. She figured it out months ago. Bank statements, mysterious phone calls, unexplained absences. She's a smart woman, Captain. Too smart for you, apparently. He walked out, leaving me standing in the empty hangar with the weight of betrayal crushing my chest. Philippa had known. She'd known about my planes and said nothing, all while carrying on her affair with the man trying to destroy me. I drove home in a fog, my mind cycling through the same thoughts over and over. How had I missed it? How had I been so blind? But I knew the answer. I'd been blind because I'd wanted to be. I'd wanted to believe in the perfect marriage, the perfect wife, the perfect life. I'd ignored the warning signs because acknowledging them would mean admitting that everything I'd built was founded on lies. The house was dark when I arrived. I sat in my car for a moment, looking at the home I'd been so proud of. The white shutters Philippa had chosen, the garden she'd planted, the porch swing where we'd spent countless evenings. All of it felt like a stage set now, pretty facades hiding an ugly truth. Inside, I found evidence of Philippa's return drawers emptied, closet half bare, her jewelry box gone. But on the kitchen counter, she'd left something, her wedding ring and a note. I'm sorry, it was real, even if you can't believe that now. P. I picked up the ring, a 2-carat diamond that had cost me 3 months' salary. It caught the light, throwing tiny rainbows on the wall. Such a small thing to represent such a large lie. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. But this time the message was different. He's using you. Don't trust him. A friend. A friend. Right. In my experience, friends didn't send cryptic messages from blocked numbers, but whoever it was might be right. Davis was definitely using me, but for what? Moving contraband didn't require this elaborate setup. He could have found easier targets, people already dirty who wouldn't need this much coercion. Unless the contraband was just the beginning. Unless he needed someone with my specific skills, my specific access. Federal Air Marshal, commercial pilot, cargo fleet owner. When you put them together, what did you get? Someone who could move anything, anywhere, without suspicion. The realization hit like a lightning strike. Davis wasn't planning to smuggle drugs or guns. He was planning something bigger, something that required not just planes, but someone with federal credentials, someone who could bypass security, who understood the system from the inside. The radioactive material wasn't just a threat, it was a hint. He was planning to move something nuclear. I called Pete immediately. I need you to ground everything. Every plane, every crew. Nobody flies until I say so. Boss, just do it. And Pete, if anyone asks, we're doing voluntary maintenance, nothing more. After I hung up, I sat in the dark kitchen, Philippa's ring still in my hand. The FBI had a saying. The biggest threats to national security weren't foreign agents or terrorists. They were insiders, people already in the system who could be turned. And I'd just been turned. But Davis had made one mistake. He'd assumed that because he had leverage, he had control. He'd assumed that a broken man was a compliant man. He was wrong. I might be broken, but I was also angry. And an angry pilot with nothing left to lose was a very dangerous thing. Chapter 3. The manifest made no sense. I sat in my office at 4 a.m., comparing shipping documents while rain hammered the windows. Outside, Norfolk International was waking up the distant whine of engines, the beep of service vehicles backing up, the organized chaos of another day in aviation. But my attention was locked on the papers spread across my desk. 3 shipments of electronic components bound for Mexico City, Sao Paulo, and Cairo. All originating from a company I'd never heard of, Prometheus Technical Solutions, all scheduled for my planes, all approved with my digital signature, except I'd never signed anything. This is getting interesting, I muttered, cross-referencing the routing numbers. The shipments were already in transit to my hangars, would arrive within hours. Whatever Davis was planning, it was happening now. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Check the actual cargo. Building 7, Section C. You have 30 minutes before security shift change. A friend, supposedly. But in my experience, friends didn't play games with burner phones and cryptic messages. Still, I couldn't ignore it. I drove through the service roads that snake behind the airport, my Federal Air Marshal credentials getting me past the security checkpoints. Building 7 was one of the older cargo facilities, the kind of place where questions went to die. At this hour, it was deserted except for the security cameras that I knew how to avoid one advantage of my dual life. Section C was cold storage, which made no sense for electronic components. I found the crates easily enough, 3 pallets wrapped in enough plastic to survive a hurricane, all marked with my company's routing codes. I cut through the plastic carefully, peeled back the packaging. Inside were smaller boxes, each marked with warnings in multiple languages. But it was the symbol that made my blood run cold, the 3 triangles of a radiation warning. Not what you expected? I spun around to find a woman standing in the doorway, 30s, athletic build, eyes that missed nothing. She wore jeans and a leather jacket, but something about her posture screamed federal agent. Who are you? Someone who's been watching Rupert Davis for a long time. She stepped closer, and I noticed the subtle bulge of a concealed weapon. Agent Sarah Chen, FBI, and you're in way over your head, Captain Williams. FBI? I laughed, the sound bitter. You people have a funny way of introducing yourselves. We had to be sure you weren't complicit. Davis has turned a lot of good people. Your wife, for instance? The mention of Philippa made my jaw clench. What do you know about that? Everything. We've been monitoring Davis for 6 months. He targets people with leverage debts, secrets, weaknesses. Your wife was perfect. Married to a Federal Air Marshal with a secret cargo fleet? It was like Christmas morning for him. So you just let him destroy my marriage? We let him think he was in control. Chen pulled out her phone, showed me a photo. It was Davis, but in a different context, military uniform, foreign insignia. His real name is Dmitry Volkov, ex-GRU. Russian military intelligence. He's been building a network for 3 years, planning something big. How big? Big enough that we've let him operate just to see the full scope. She nodded at the crates. This is just the tip. He's planning to move nuclear materials through your planes, using your Federal Air Marshal status to bypass security. One dirty bomb in a major city, and he'll have what every terrorist dreams of: mass casualties and economic chaos. And you're telling me this why? Because we need you to play along. Let him think he owns you. Document everything. When we move on him, we need it airtight. You want me to be your inside man. I want you to be a patriot, Captain. Your country needs you. I looked at the radiation symbols on those boxes, thought about planes full of innocent people, cities that could be turned into ghost towns. Then I thought about Philippa, about trust, about how everything I'd believed in had turned out to be a lie. What about my wife? Chen's expression softened slightly. She doesn't know what Davis really is. She thinks he's just a corrupt inspector looking for a payday. We could arrest her as an accomplice, or you help us and she walks away clean. Just another woman who made a bad choice in men. It wasn't much of a choice. What do you need me to do? For now? Nothing different. Go to your meetings with Davis. Accept his shipments. Document everything. We'll be watching, and when the time comes, we'll give you the signal." "What signal?" She handed me a business card blank except for a phone number. "You'll know. And Captain, don't try to be a hero. Davis has killed 3 people that we know of. Your wife may have broken your heart, but he'll put a bullet in it." She left me standing there among the radioactive crates, my world tilted so far off, axis I couldn't tell up from down anymore. Russian intelligence, nuclear materials, FBI operations. This wasn't just turbulence anymore. This was a complete structural failure at 30,000 feet. I rewrapped the crates carefully, making sure everything looked undisturbed. As I worked, my phone rang. Philippa. "Don't hang up," she said quickly. "Please. What do you want?" "To explain. To really explain, not the lies I told before. I'm listening. Not on the phone. Meet me, please, Monty. You're in danger, and it's my fault." Every instinct screamed trap, but something in her voice, real fear, maybe made me pause. "Where?" "The place we got engaged. 1 hour." She hung up before I could respond. The place we got engaged, Sandbridge Beach, specifically the pier at Little Island Park. We'd gone there to watch the sunrise after a night shift, and I'd proposed as the sun broke the horizon. No ring, no plan, just the certainty that I wanted to spend my life with her. I laughed at the irony. The drive to Sandbridge took 40 minutes in the pre-dawn darkness. The park was empty except for a few dedicated fishermen who ignored me as I walked to the end of the pier. Philippa was already there, wrapped in a coat I'd bought her for Christmas, looking out at the black ocean. "Thank you for coming," she said without turning around. "Chen says you don't know what Davis really is." She spun, eyes wide. "Chen? Sarah Chen? You've talked to the FBI? They've been watching you, Philippa? Watching both of us? Oh, God." She sank onto one of the benches, head in her hands. "I've been so stupid. That's one word for it. He said he could help," she continued, ignoring my jab. "Said he knew about your planes, that you were already breaking the law. He said if I helped him, he'd make sure you stayed out of prison." "And you believed him?" "I was scared. You were living this double life, and I didn't know how deep it went, I thought. I thought maybe you were already compromised. So you compromised yourself instead. It wasn't supposed to go so far." She looked up at me, tears streaming. "The affair. That wasn't part of the plan. It just happened." "Stop saying that. Nothing just happens. You made choices." "You're right." She wiped her eyes. "I made choices. Bad ones. But Monty, he's planning something terrible. I overheard him on the phone yesterday talking about maximum casualties and symbolic targets. This isn't about smuggling. I know, it's about terrorism. Then you have to stop him. The FBI's handling it." "No, you don't understand." She grabbed my arm, urgent now. "He has a backup plan. If the FBI moves on him, he has people ready to release something. I don't know what, but he called it his insurance policy." "People? What people?" "I don't know all of them, but—" She hesitated, then pulled out her phone, showed me a photo. It was taken in what looked like a warehouse, several people standing around a table covered in documents. I recognized Davis immediately, and next to him. "That's Tom Morrison," I said, recognizing my own head of maintenance. "He's one of my people." "Davis has been recruiting from inside your organization. He knew the FBI was watching, so he built a cell structure. Even if they get him, the plan continues." My phone buzzed. "Davis. Meeting moved up. Hangar 7, 1 hour. Bring manifest confirmations." "I have to go," I said. "Monty, wait." Philippa stood, reached for me, then dropped her hand. "I know I've lost the right to ask anything of you, but please be careful. Whatever you think of me, I do love you. That was never a lie." I looked at her, really looked at her for maybe the last time. Even now, even after everything, she was beautiful. But beauty wasn't enough anymore. Trust was the foundation of everything, and ours was rubble. "Take care of yourself, Philippa." I walked away, her calling my name behind me, but I didn't stop. There was no going back, only forward into whatever nightmare Davis had planned. Hangar 7 was busy when I arrived. Too busy for this hour. I counted 6 vehicles, including a box truck backed up to a cargo plane I recognized as one of mine. Men were loading crates, the same kind I'd seen in cold storage. Davis was supervising, clipboard in hand, looking every inch the federal inspector. He smiled when he saw me. Captain Williams, right on time. What is this? This is efficiency. We're accelerating the timeline. My employer is getting impatient. Your employer being Moscow? His smile flickered. I see you've been talking to people you shouldn't. That's disappointing, Captain. I thought we had an understanding. We do. You're blackmailing me, and I'm going along with it. But I want to know what I'm really transporting. Cesium-137. Enough to make 3 major cities uninhabitable for decades. Though don't worry, it's properly shielded. Mostly. You're insane. I'm practical. America thinks it's invulnerable, protected by 2 oceans and the world's largest military. But you can't fight fear, Captain. 3 dirty bombs, 3 cities, and suddenly nowhere feels safe. The economy crashes, the government overreacts, and in the chaos, certain interests profit. Certain Russian interests. Russian, Chinese, Iranian money has no nationality. He handed me a tablet. Sign these manifests. Your flight crew is already prepped. They think they're carrying medical equipment. I looked at the tablet, at the digital signature field waiting for my input. Once I signed, I was complicit. No matter what the FBI had promised, I'd be part of this. Problem, Captain? Just thinking about my crew. They're innocent. And they'll stay that way if you cooperate. He leaned closer. Sign it, or I release those photos of your planes with the nuclear materials. Your choice, be a reluctant accomplice or a framed terrorist. I signed. What else could I do? Excellent. Davis took the tablet back. Wheels up in 3 hours. You'll fly the lead aircraft. I'm supposed to be on duty as an air marshal today. Call in sick. Food poisoning. Happens all the time. He turned to watch the loading. Oh, and Captain, your wife came to see me last night, tried to convince me to leave you out of this. Very touching. Stay away from her. Protective even now? That's admirable. Foolish, but admirable. He checked his watch. Better get moving. You have a flight plan to file. I left the hangar with my mind racing. 3 hours until takeoff. The FBI needed to know the timeline had changed, but any call I made might be monitored. I needed another way. Then I remembered the business card Chen had given me. Just a number, nothing else. I pulled into a gas station and used the payphone, a relic that still worked. Yes? Chen's voice. The packages are moving in 3 hours. All 3 birds. I'm flying lead. Understood. Proceed as planned. What about the backup cell? My wife says, we're aware. Just fly the plane, Captain. We'll handle the rest. She hung up, leaving me standing in a gas station at dawn, about to fly nuclear materials to God knows where, trusting FBI agents I'd just met to stop a plan I didn't fully understand. I drove home to pack a flight bag, going through the motions while my mind worked the problem. The planes would have to file flight plans, subject to FAA tracking. But Davis was smart. He probably had ways to deviate once airborne, transponder tricks to disappear from radar, which meant the FBI would have to move before we took off, or risk losing us entirely. My phone rang as I was leaving. Unknown number. Captain Williams? A man's voice, unfamiliar. This is Special Agent Rick Harrison, FBI. Agent Chen asked me to coordinate with you. The task force is moving into position. When you get to the airport, proceed normally. We'll handle the rest. What's my signal to abort? You'll know it when you see it. Just be ready to hit the ground when things go loud. Loud? Federal raids aren't subtle, Captain. When we move, everyone will know it. He hung up. I stood in my empty house, flight bag in hand, looking around at the life I'd built. By the end of the day, it would all be over one way or another. My phone buzzed with a text from Tom Morrison, my compromised head of maintenance. Birds are prepped and ready, boss. Strange cargo, but the paperwork's clean. I texted back, good work. See you at the hangar. Let him think everything was normal. Let them all think that. The storm was coming, but until it hit, I had to fly straight and level, no matter how much I wanted to bank hard and run. The drive to the airport felt both endless and too short. Every car could be surveillance, every face a federal agent or a Russian asset. Paranoia was becoming my co-pilot, whispering warnings about dangers real and imagined. The hangar was still busy when I arrived. Davis was gone, but Tom was there, supervising the final loading. "Morning, boss," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Didn't expect to see you flying today." "Change of plans. Everything good with the aircraft?" 5x5, though. He hesitated. "This cargo. It's not our usual stuff. Medical equipment. Humanitarian mission." "Right." He didn't look convinced. "Boss, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Are we in trouble? I mean, with all the FAA attention lately, and now this rush job." I wanted to tell him everything, warn him to run, but I couldn't. "Just do your job, Tom. Everything else will sort itself out." He nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He knew something was wrong, but he was in too deep to back out now. Just like me. I did my pre-flight walk-around, checking control surfaces and engine intakes with extra care. If things went bad, I wanted to know my aircraft was solid. The Cessna Caravan wasn't built for combat, but she was reliable and tough qualities I might need before this was over. "Captain Williams?" I turned to find a young man in a pilot's uniform, one of my recent hires, barely 25. "Yes?" "I'm James Chen. I'll be your co-pilot today." Chen, same surname as the FBI agent. Coincidence? In my current state, I didn't believe in coincidences anymore. "Have we met before, James?" "No, sir. Just started last week. Mr. Morrison assigned me to this flight." "I see. Well, let's get started." We climbed into the cockpit, and I watched him carefully as we ran through the checklist. He was competent, professional, but there was something about the way he moved too precise, too trained. Military, maybe, or law enforcement. "You serve, James?" "Sir?" "Military. You move like someone who's worn a uniform. Navy, 4 years. You?" "Air Force." I started the engine, listening to the turbine spool up. "Why'd you get out?" "Family business needed help." Another lie, probably, but I let it go. If he was FBI, he was my backup. If he was working for Davis, well, I'd deal with that when I had to. "Tower, this is Cargo 77 Alpha, requesting taxi clearance." 77 Alpha, taxi to runway 27 via Bravo. Hold short." We rolled out of the hangar into morning sunlight that seemed too bright, too normal for what we were carrying. Behind us, the other 2 planes were starting up, their engines adding to the symphony of aviation that never stopped. "Nervous?" James asked. "Should I be?" "First time flying with radioactive cargo. I'd be nervous." So he knew. Either Tom had told him, or he'd been briefed by someone else. "It's properly shielded," I said, repeating Davis's lie. "Sure. Still, makes you think about mortality, doesn't it?" Before I could respond, the radio crackled. All aircraft, Norfolk Tower. We have an emergency situation. All takeoffs are suspended. Return to parking immediately." There it was, the signal. "What's going on?" James asked, but he was already reaching under his seat. When his hand came back, it was holding a Glock. "Federal agent," he said quietly. "Just stay calm, Captain. This will all be over soon." Through the windscreen, I could see vehicles racing across the tarmac, black SUVs, tactical trucks, even a helicopter swooping low. The raid was happening, and we were sitting in the middle of it with a plane full of nuclear materials. 77 Alpha, shut down engines and remain in position," the tower ordered. I reached for the fuel cutoff, but James stopped me. "Keep them running." "What?" "Trust me." He was watching something through the side window. "We might need to move fast." That's when I saw Davis. He was running from the hangar, phone pressed to his ear, heading for a car parked near the fence. 2 agents were pursuing him, but he had a head start. "He's running," I said. "Not far." James smiled grimly. "We've got the perimeter locked down." But Davis wasn't heading for the perimeter. He was heading for us. "Oh, shit," James muttered, raising his weapon. Davis had a gun. He fired at the pursuing agents, who dove for cover, then sprinted toward our plane. He was trying to board, to use us as either escape or hostage leverage. "Go!" James shouted. "Full throttle now!" I jammed the throttle forward, and the caravan lurched into motion. Davis was close, maybe 50 feet away, raising his gun toward the cockpit. "Down!" James yelled. The windscreen exploded in a web of cracks as bullets punched through. I kept the throttle pinned, turning hard to the left, using the plane itself as a weapon. Davis dove aside at the last second, rolling clear of the prop wash. "Tower 7-7 Alpha, we're under fire," I shouted into the radio. 7-7 Alpha, emergency services responding. Can you return to parking?" I looked back. Davis was on his feet again, but now a dozen agents were converging on him. He turned to run, and I saw the muzzle flashes before I heard the shots. Davis spun and fell, his body crumpling on the tarmac. "Shut it down," James said quietly. "It's over." I pulled the throttle back, applied the brakes. As the engines wound down, I could see the full scope of the operation. Agents were everywhere, securing the other planes, arresting ground crew, establishing a perimeter around the radioactive cargo. "Captain Williams?" Agent Chen appeared at my window, her expression professionally neutral. "We need you to exit the aircraft slowly. Hands visible." "He's clear," James said. "He's been cooperating the whole time." "Protocol," Chen replied. "Captain, please." I climbed down, hands raised, feeling like I was in a movie. Agents surrounded me, but they didn't cuff me. Instead, Chen led me to one of the SUVs. "Is it over?" I asked. "Davis is. The network will take longer to unravel." She studied me. "You did good, Captain. Your country owes you a debt. My country can keep it. I just want my life back." "That might be complicated. There will be investigations, questions. Your ownership of the fleet will become public. Your wife." "Ex-wife." "Right. She's agreed to cooperate fully. With luck, you'll both avoid prosecution." "And my planes?" "Evidence for now. After that?" She shrugged. "Depends on what we find." I looked back at the Caravan. Its windscreen shot through, its cargo hold full of materials that could have killed thousands. My beautiful, terrible aircraft that had almost become a weapon of mass destruction. "Can I ask you something?" I said to Chen. "Sure." "How long were you watching? How long did you know what was happening?" She was quiet for a moment. "Long enough to know you're one of the good guys, Captain. Even when you were breaking the law, you never hurt anyone. That matters. Tell that to my wife." "Ex-wife. And from what I saw, she hurt herself more than you ever could." Maybe that was true. Maybe someday I'd even believe it. But standing there on the tarmac, watching federal agents swarm over everything I'd built, all I felt was empty. The storm had passed, but it had taken everything with it: my marriage, my business, my carefully separated worlds. But I was alive. The cities Davis had targeted were safe. Thousands of people would never know how close they'd come to catastrophe. That had to count for something. "What now?" I asked Chen. "Now you go home, get some rest, and wait for our call. There'll be debriefings, paperwork, probably congressional hearings. Your life's about to become very public, Captain." "Great. But after that, after the dust settles, you'll rebuild? People like you always do." People like me. I wondered what that meant: pilots, criminals, patriots, fools. Maybe all of the above. As they drove me home, I saw news trucks already gathering at the airport perimeter. By evening, the story would be everywhere: terrorist plot foiled, dirty bombs seized, hero pilots and federal agents saving the day. The official version, sanitized for public consumption. The real story, the betrayals, the lies, the careful dance between duty and destruction that would stay classified, locked in files that wouldn't be opened for decades, which was fine by me. Some truths were too heavy for the public to carry. Some storms too violent to describe to those who'd never flown through them. I was done with secrets, done with double lives, done with trusting people who wore masks. It was time to fly straight and level again, even if I was doing it alone. Chapter 4. The FBI kept me for 36 hours. Not arrested. They were careful to clarify just detailed debriefing in a conference room that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. Agent Chen led the sessions, walking me through every interaction with Davis, every document I'd signed, every moment my two lives had intersected. "Tell me about March 15th, she'd say, and I'd rack my brain trying to remember if that was the day I'd incorporated the third LLC or the fifth. The fluorescent lights hummed like angry wasps, and time became meaningless, just an endless loop of questions, answers, and more questions. "When did you first suspect your wife was having an affair?" "I didn't. Not until I saw them together." "You never noticed changes in her behavior?" I noticed she was working more. I thought she was dedicated to her job. Chen made a note, always making notes, like she was writing my biography one fact at a time. What about Thomas Morrison? When did he approach you about working for your company? 2 years ago. He had good references, knew his way around a 737. Did you verify those references? Of course. We did too. Half of them were fabricated. The other half were Russian assets. The hits kept coming. Every person I'd trusted, every decision I'd made, all of it tainted in retrospect. My carefully built empire hadn't just been infiltrated, it had been designed from the ground up to be infiltrated. On the morning of the third day, Chen finally closed her notebook. You're free to go, Captain Williams. We'll be in touch about the congressional hearings. That's it? Were you expecting handcuffs? You're a victim here, not a perpetrator. Davis targeted you specifically because of your unique position. Federal Air Marshal with a secret cargo fleet, you were perfect for his needs. I don't feel like a victim. No, she agreed. You feel like someone who should have seen it coming. But that's the thing about good intelligence operations, if you can see them coming, they're not good. She drove me home herself, which surprised me. We rode in silence through Norfolk's morning traffic, past normal people living normal lives, until we reached my street. The house looked different somehow. Same white shutters, same garden, but it felt like a museum exhibit preserved remnant of a life that no longer existed. Your wife came by yesterday? Chen said as I got out. Ex-wife. She left some boxes on the porch. Sure enough, 3 cardboard boxes sat by the door, my name written on them in Philippa's neat handwriting. I didn't open them. Inside, the house was exactly as I'd left it, but the silence was oppressive. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and tried to figure out what came next. My phone, which the FBI had returned, showed 47 missed calls. Pete, Jake, my sister, numbers I didn't recognize. The news had broken while I was in custody, and everyone wanted to know if I was the Monty Williams from the headlines. Hero pilot stops nuclear terror plot, that was CNN's take. Secret life of a federal air marshal, Fox News, focusing on the scandal. The woman who betrayed America, a tabloid piece about Philippa, complete with photos taken from her Facebook. I turned the phone off. The world could wait. I was pouring my 3rd cup of coffee when someone knocked on the door. Through the peephole, I saw a man in an expensive suit holding a briefcase. Captain Williams? I'm David Thornton, your attorney. I didn't hire an attorney. No, but your wife did. May I come in? Against my better judgment, I let him in. He was everything a high-priced lawyer should be: silver hair, perfect teeth, an air of confidence that probably cost extra. Mrs. Williams retained me to handle the divorce and to ensure your interests are protected during the federal investigation. She hired you to protect me? She's quite insistent that you not suffer for her mistakes. She's agreed to a very favorable settlement. She keeps her medical practice assets. You keep everything else. No alimony either way. Why? Guilt, I imagine. She also wanted me to give you this. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a single key and a note. Storage Unit 447, Norfolk Self-Storage. Everything you need to know. P. What's in the storage unit? I wasn't told. Mrs. Williams only said it was important you have it. After Thornton left, I sat staring at the key. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to be done with Philippa and whatever games she was still playing. But curiosity won. It always did. The storage facility was across town, one of those places that promised climate control and 24-hour access. Unit 447 was a small one, barely bigger than a closet. Inside were file boxes, dozens of them, all labeled with dates. I opened the most recent one and found surveillance photos Davis meeting with various people, including Tom Morrison. Timestamps showed these were taken weeks before the FBI claimed to have started watching him. There were transcripts, too, conversations between Davis and his handlers, all in Russian with English translations. At the bottom of the box was a note from Philippa. I knew something was wrong from the beginning. Davis approached me 2 months ago, but I'd already started investigating him. My father still has connections from his Navy intelligence days. This is everything we gathered. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. They threatened to kill you if I didn't play along. The affair was the only way to keep you at a distance, to keep you safe. I knew you'd never forgive me, but at least you'd be alive. The FBI has copies of everything, but I wanted you to have it too. You deserve to know the truth, even if it doesn't change anything between us. I loved you. That was never a lie. P. I sat on the concrete floor of that storage unit, surrounded by evidence of a conspiracy I'd been blind to, and tried to process this new revelation. Philippa hadn't betrayed me, she'd sacrificed us to save me. The affair that destroyed our marriage had been her way of protecting me. My phone rang. Agent Chen. Captain, we have a problem. 3 of Davis's associates are in the wind. We need your help finding them. I'm done, Chen. I gave you everything. They're targeting your pilots. Anyone who flew your planes is in danger. That changed things. Who? James Rodriguez, Sarah Kellerman, and Michael Park. They all worked for you at some point. I knew them all. Good pilots, good people. What do you need? Access to your employment records, flight logs, anything that might tell us where they'd run. I'll send everything I have. And Captain? That storage unit your wife left you, we know about it. She's been working with us for weeks. She's the reason we were able to move when we did. You knew? This whole time you knew she was protecting you? Yes. She insisted we not tell you. Said you'd try to be a hero and get yourself killed. She was probably right. She usually was. I'm sorry about your marriage, Captain. Sometimes the mission demands sacrifices we never signed up for. After Chen hung up, I drove to the airport. Not to the commercial terminals, but to the general aviation section where my Cessna Caravan waited. The windscreen had been replaced, the bullet holes patched. She looked good as new, if you didn't know where to look for the scars. Thought I might find you here? I turned to find Jake, my commercial co-pilot, standing in the hangar doorway. Jake, how did you... Please, you think I didn't know about your side business? I've been flying with you for 5 years, Monty. I know when you're lying about having a dentist appointment. You never said anything. Wasn't my business, until it ended up on the news. He walked over, ran his hand along the Caravan's fuselage. So what now? You going back to commercial flying? I don't know. Everything's evidence until the investigation's done. After that, I shrugged. I'm not sure there's an after that. There's always an after that. Question is what you do with it. We stood in comfortable silence, 2 pilots looking at an aircraft that had almost been turned into a weapon. Finally, Jake spoke again. Your wife called me, ex-wife, wanted to make sure you were okay. What did you tell her? The truth, that you're too stubborn to not be okay. That's one word for it. Look, Monty, I don't know the whole story and I don't need to, but that woman loves you. Whatever happened, whatever she did, it came from love. Love shouldn't require lies. No, but sometimes it does anyway. Sometimes lying is the most loving thing you can do. He left me with that thought, and I sat in the Caravan's cockpit, hands on the controls of a plane I couldn't fly, thinking about love and lies and the distance between them. My phone buzzed. Pete. Boss, the feds are releasing planes. We need to talk about the company's future. The company's future. As if it had one. As if anything could be salvaged from this wreckage. But then I thought about my pilots, my crews, the people who'd trusted me with their livelihoods. They didn't deserve to suffer for my blindness. I called Pete back. Set up a meeting. All senior staff. Tomorrow morning. You sure? No. But we need to figure out what comes next. That evening, I went home to find Philippa's car in the driveway. She was sitting on the porch swing, still in her scrubs, looking like she'd aged years in the past few days. I know you don't want to see me, she started. You're right. But we need to talk. Really talk. No lies. No games. Just truth. I sat on the opposite end of the swing, as far from her as possible while still sharing the same seat. The truth? The truth is, you destroyed us. I saved you. You could have trusted me, told me what was happening. And what would you have done? Confronted Davis? Gone to the FBI yourself? You would have gotten yourself killed playing hero. That wasn't your choice to make. It was exactly my choice to make. I'm your wife, ex-wife. Fine, ex-wife. But I loved you enough to let you hate me if it meant keeping you alive. How noble. Don't. Her voice turned sharp. Don't diminish what I did. I gave up everything, my marriage, my reputation, my peace of mind to protect you. I slept with a man who disgusted me, who threatened to kill you every time he touched me. So yes, it was noble. It was the most noble thing I've ever done. The words hung between us like a challenged thunderstorm, dangerous and charged. He threatened you? Every day. Said if I didn't play along, if I didn't get close to you and report back, he'd make it look like you were the terrorist. Said he had enough evidence planted to bury you. Why didn't you tell the FBI? I did, eventually. But first I had to get evidence. Had to make sure they'd believe me. My father helped. He still has contacts from his intelligence days. Your father knew? He's the one who told me to have the affair. Said it was the only way to keep you at arm's length while maintaining my cover with Davis. She laughed bitterly. Strategic infidelity, he called it. Like it was a military operation. It was, wasn't it? You were all running an operation, and I was the asset being protected. You were my husband being protected. Was I? Or was I just another part of the mission? She turned to face me fully, and I saw tears streaming down her face. You want the truth? The complete truth? I've been in love with you since the day we met. Every morning I woke up next to you. I couldn't believe how lucky I was. And then Davis came along, and suddenly I had to choose between your love and your life. I chose your life. I'd make the same choice again. Even knowing what it cost? Especially knowing what it cost. Because you're sitting here, alive and free, instead of in federal prison or dead. I wanted to stay angry, to hold on to the rage that had kept me functioning for the past few days. But looking at her, really looking at her, I saw the toll this had taken. She'd lost weight, her eyes were shadowed with exhaustion, and her hands shook slightly. The divorce papers are filed, I said quietly. I know, I won't contest anything. Good. But Monty? Someday, when you're past the anger, when you can think clearly again, remember that I loved you enough to lose you. That has to count for something. She stood to leave, and I let her get to her car before I spoke. Philippa? She turned. Thank you for saving my life, for sacrificing us. I hate that you did it, but thank you. She nodded, got in her car, and drove away. I sat on the porch swing until the sun set, thinking about love and sacrifice and the prices we pay for both. My phone rang. Chen again. We got them. All 3 associates trying to cross into Canada. Your employment records helped track them down. Good. There's more. We've been going through Davis's files. Your company was just one part of a larger operation. He had similar setups in 6 other cities, all targeting people with specific access. How many people did he destroy? Too many. But you're the only one who helped stop him. That matters, Captain. Does it? My life is in ruins. My marriage is over. My business is gone. Your life is yours to rebuild. Your marriage, well, that's between you and your wife. But your business? The FBI is recommending that your licenses be reinstated once the investigation concludes. You'll be able to fly again, commercially and privately. Why would they do that? Because you're a hero, Captain. You might not feel like one, but you stopped a nuclear attack. That buys a lot of goodwill. After she hung up, I went inside and opened one of the boxes Philippa had left. Inside were photos from our marriage, our wedding, vacations, random moments of happiness captured and frozen. At the bottom was our wedding album. I flipped through it, remembering that day, how happy we'd been, how certain of our future. Neither of us knowing that 3 years later, Russian intelligence would use our love against us. There was a note tucked into the back of the album. I know you'll probably throw these away, but I wanted you to have them first. These were real. We were real. Never doubt that. P. I didn't throw them away, but I didn't keep them either. I put them back in the box, sealed it, and put it in the closet. Someday, maybe, I'd be ready to look at them again, but not today. The next morning, I met with my senior staff at a hotel conference room. Pete, Tom Morrison, out on bail but still employed, and 6 other key people. They all looked at me like I was a ghost. I'll keep this simple, I said. The company is under federal investigation, but we're not being charged with anything. Our planes will be released within the week. The question is, do we continue? Can we? Pete asked. I mean, legally? Legally, yes. Financially, that's another question. We've lost contracts, our reputation is shot, and we'll be under scrutiny for years. But we're innocent, Tom said. We were victims too. I looked at him, this man who'd been turned by Davis, who'd betrayed me without even knowing it. Were we? We were all so focused on profit that we didn't see the threats. That's on us. So what do you suggest? Pete asked. We rebuild, but differently. Complete transparency, no shell companies, no hidden ownership. We become the most heavily vetted, most scrutinized cargo company in America. We make that our selling point. Who's going to hire us? The government. They need cargo carriers they can trust absolutely. We've been through the fire, we're either clean or we're done. That makes us valuable. They agreed, some reluctantly, others with enthusiasm. We spent the rest of the day planning our resurrection, turning our disaster into opportunity. That night, I was back at the hangar doing paperwork in my office when someone knocked. I looked up to find Special Agent Chen standing in the doorway, but she wasn't alone. With her was a man in an Air Force uniform, stars on his shoulders. Captain Williams, General Robert Hayes, Air Force Intelligence. We need to talk. About what? About your future. The Air Force would like to offer you a position civilian contractor, flying sensitive cargo for operations we can't discuss. You want me to be a spy pilot? We want you to be what you've always been, a patriot, who can fly anything anywhere without attracting attention. The recent events have given you a unique credibility. Everyone knows you were investigated and cleared. That makes you perfect for certain missions. And if I refuse? Then you rebuild your cargo company and live a normal life. This is an offer, not an order. I looked at Chen. You knew about this? I recommended you. Captain, you have a skill set that's rare and valuable. You can compartmentalize, you can handle pressure, and you've proven you'll do the right thing even at personal cost. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. The offer stands. After they left, I sat in my office thinking about futures and choices and second chances. Outside, planes took off and landed, their lights cutting through the darkness. The aviation world continued its eternal cycle, indifferent to the human dramas playing out below. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but somehow I knew who it was. Saw the news about the company rebuilding. I'm proud of you. P. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. The storm had passed, leaving destruction in its wake. But storms also cleared the air, revealed new landscapes, created opportunities for growth. I'd lost everything I'd thought mattered: my marriage, my secrets, my carefully separated worlds. But I'd gained something too: clarity. For the first time in years, I had no secrets, no hidden life, no lies to maintain. It was terrifying and liberating in equal measure. Tomorrow, I'd make decisions about the Air Force offer, about the company, about what kind of man I wanted to be going forward. But tonight, I sat in my hangar, surrounded by aircraft that had almost become weapons, and felt something I hadn't expected: peace. The eye of the storm was passing, and soon the winds would return. But for now, in this moment of stillness, I could see clearly in all directions. The view wasn't pretty, but it was real, and that was enough. I pulled out my laptop and began typing. Proposal for Secure Cargo Services, Inc., a veteran-owned transportation company specializing in high-security shipments. It was time to stop running from the storm and start flying through it. The weather was changing, but for the first time in my life, I was ready for whatever came next. Chapter 5. 3 weeks after Davis died on the tarmac, I woke up to silence so complete it felt like drowning. The house had never been this quiet. Even when Philippa worked late shifts, there'd been signs of life: her coffee mug in the sink, her scrubs draped over the bathroom door, the lingering scent of her shampoo on the pillows. Now there was nothing but the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the kitchen clock, counting off seconds of a life I didn't recognize anymore. I stood on the porch with my coffee, watching Virginia Beach wake up around me. Mrs. Henderson next door was watering her roses, pretending she wasn't stealing glances at the house where the terrorist plot had been stopped. That's what I was now: not Monty the neighbor, not Captain Williams the pilot, but the guy from the news, the one whose wife had been sleeping with a Russian spy. "Morning, Monty," she finally called out, her voice pitched somewhere between sympathy and curiosity. "Morning, Ellen. If you need anything." She let it trail off, the universal offering of help that nobody really expected you to take. "I'm good, thanks." But I wasn't good. I was functional, which was different. I could make coffee, shower, put on clothes that matched. But underneath that thin veneer of normalcy, I was hollow as a bird's bones. My phone buzzed. Pete again, the 10th time this morning. "Boss, we need to talk about the planes." I'd been avoiding this conversation for days, but Pete was nothing if not persistent. He'd kept the company alive while I was being interrogated, while the FBI crawled through our records, while our reputation went from solid to radioactive. "I'm listening," I said, settling into the porch swing that still smelled faintly of Philippa's perfume. "We've got 3 contracts that want to cancel. 2 more are threatening to pull out unless we can guarantee enhanced security measures, whatever that means. It means they're scared. Can't blame them. We're bleeding money, Monty. Another 2 weeks like this, and we won't make payroll. The responsible thing would be to shut it down, liquidate the assets, pay off the debts, walk away clean. But those planes weren't just metal and engines to me. They were proof that I could build something, that I was more than just a guy with a badge who sat in the back of aircraft, watching for threats that never came. Set up a meeting, I told Pete. All hands, tomorrow morning. You sure you're ready for that? Was I ready to face the people whose lives I'd inadvertently put at risk? The pilots who'd unknowingly flown potential dirty bombs? The mechanics who'd serviced planes carrying nuclear materials? No, but we're doing it anyway. After I hung up, I went inside and actually looked at the house, really looked at it for the first time since Philippa left. The living room still had both our touches, my aviation books, her medical journals. The walls held photos of our travels Cabo, Montreal, that disastrous camping trip where it rained for 3 days straight, and we'd laughed until we cried. I started taking them down one by one, not in anger, but with the methodical precision of someone preparing an aircraft for storage. Each photo went into a box, each memory carefully wrapped and sealed away. That's when I found it, tucked behind a picture of our wedding day, a USB drive taped to the back of the frame. My hands shook as I plugged it into my laptop. The drive contained dozens of files, emails, recorded phone conversations, surveillance photos, all dated months before the FBI claimed to have started their investigation, all focused on Davis and his network. One file was labeled, "For Monty Important." I clicked it open. Philippa's face filled the screen, a video message recorded in what looked like her office at the hospital. She looked exhausted, scared, but determined. "If you're watching this, it means everything went wrong," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm recording this on May 15th, 3 weeks after Rupert Davis first approached me. I need you to know the truth, even if I can never tell you in person." She went on to explain everything, how Davis had shown up at the hospital with photos of my planes, threatening to frame me for smuggling unless she cooperated. How she'd reached out to her father, a retired Navy intelligence officer, for help. How they'd started their own investigation, gathering evidence while pretending to go along with Davis's demands. "The affair," she said, and her voice cracked. "God, Monty, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. But Davis was getting suspicious. He needed to believe he owned me completely, and the only way to sell that was to make it real, or real enough." She looked directly at the camera, tears streaming down her face. "I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But please know that every moment with him was agony. Every lie I told you was a knife in my own heart. I loved you too much to let him destroy you, even if it meant destroying us." The video ended with her reaching toward the camera, her wedding ring catching the light. The timestamp showed it was recorded 2 days before I discovered the affair. I sat in my empty house, staring at the frozen image of my wife's face, and felt something crack inside my chest. Not healing, it was too soon for that, but maybe the beginning of understanding. My phone rang. Agent Victoria Blackwood, the FBI agent who'd taken over the case after the raid. They'd reassigned everyone after discovering how deep the conspiracy went, bringing in fresh eyes. "Captain Williams, we need to discuss your safety." "My safety? Davis is dead." Davis was middle management. We've uncovered evidence of a larger network, and some of them blame you for the operation's failure. How many? At least 6 cells that we know of, maybe more. We'd like to put you in protective custody. No. Captain. I said no. I'm not hiding. I've done enough of that. There was a pause. Then at least let us assign a detail. Fine, but they stay outside. I'm not living in a fishbowl. After she hung up, I noticed a black SUV already parked across the street. Your tax dollars at work, I thought, offering them a mock salute through the window. That afternoon, I drove to the hangar. My credentials had been temporarily suspended pending investigation, but Pete had arranged visitor access. Walking through those familiar spaces felt like visiting a grave, everything exactly as it was, but fundamentally wrong. The Cessna Caravan sat in the corner, the one I'd been flying when Davis made his last run at us. The windscreen had been replaced, the bullet holes patched and painted over. You'd never know it had been through a firefight unless you knew where to look. Just like me, I supposed. "She's flight ready," said a voice behind me. I turned to find Tom Morrison, my head of maintenance, the one who'd been compromised by Davis. He stood 10 feet away, hands shoved in his pockets, looking like he'd aged a decade in 3 weeks. "Tom?" "I didn't know," he said quickly. "I swear to God, Monty, I had no idea who he really was. He said he was investigating irregularities, said if I helped him, he'd make sure the company stayed clean." "And you believed him? He had credentials." "He knew things about our operation that only an insider would know. I thought—" He trailed off, shaking his head. "I thought I was protecting us." "You were protecting yourself." "Maybe. Yeah, probably." He met my eyes. "I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm sorry." I wanted to be angry. Rage would have been easier than this hollow disappointment. But looking at Tom, this man who'd worked beside me for 2 years, who'd kept our planes in the air and our pilots safe, I just felt tired. "Are you wearing a wire?" I asked. "What? No, The FBI! Are you recording this?" He pulled out his phone, showed me the screen. No active recordings. Then he turned out his pockets, lifted his shirt. "I'm not working for them, Monty. Or anyone else. I just wanted to apologize." "Apology accepted. Now, get out." He left without another word. I stood there alone with my wounded aircraft, running my hand along her fuselage, feeling the subtle imperfections where the repairs had been made. We'd both been shot up and patched back together, but the question was, could either of us still fly? That evening, I met with my lawyer, Thornton, at a bar near the oceanfront. He'd chosen the location public enough to be safe, loud enough that we wouldn't be overheard. "The divorce papers are ready," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "Your wife, ex-wife, has already signed. Very generous terms, as I mentioned. She's asking for nothing except her personal belongings and her medical practice assets." "She left me a video," I said, not sure why I was telling him. "Explaining everything. The affair was strategic." Thornton raised an eyebrow. "Strategic adultery? That's a new one." "She was trying to protect me." "And you believe her?" I thought about the video, the timestamps on those files, the pain in her eyes. "Yeah, I do. Does it change anything?" "No." I signed where he indicated, each signature another nail in the coffin of my marriage. Understanding isn't the same as forgiving. Wise words. He gathered the papers. "There is one other matter. The FBI has cleared your business assets. You're free to resume operations whenever you're ready." "Great. Now I just need clients who aren't terrified of being associated with me. Actually," he pulled out another folder. "You have an interesting offer. A company called Phoenix Security Solutions wants to partner with you. They specialize in high-risk cargo transport for government contractors. Never heard of them. They're new. Formed last month by some former CIA and military types. They think your recent experiences make you uniquely qualified for their needs." "You mean they want to exploit my notoriety?" "They want to turn your liability into an asset. The guy who stopped a nuclear plot? That's a hell of a selling point for security-conscious clients." I took the folder, flipped through the proposal. The numbers were good, better than good. Enough to keep my people employed, and then some. "I'll think about it." Walking back to my car, I passed a newspaper stand. My face was still on the front page, though below the fold now. Hero pilot's wife speaks out, read the headline. I didn't buy a copy. Some stories you don't need to read to know how they end. Back home, the black SUV was still there, my taxpayer-funded guardian angels keeping watch. I waved at them, might as well be friendly, and went inside to my empty house. The silence hit me again, but differently this time. Before it had felt like absence, now it felt like possibility. A blank slate. A clear runway. I pulled out my phone and called Pete. That meeting tomorrow? Make it a war council. We're not shutting down. We're rebuilding. You sure about that, boss? No, but we're doing it anyway. I hung up and went to the kitchen, poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon. Outside, the sun was setting over Virginia Beach, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Somewhere out there, Philippa was probably finishing her shift, going home to her own empty house. Somewhere, federal agents were hunting the rest of Davis's network. Somewhere, my plane sat idle, waiting to fly again. But here, in this moment, I stood in my kitchen and raised my glass to the silence. To aftermath, I said to no one, and whatever comes next. The bourbon burned going down, but it was a good burn. The kind that reminded you that you were still alive, still feeling, still capable of moving forward even when everything behind you was wreckage. Tomorrow, I'd face my employees, my future, my new reality. Tonight, I'd sit with the silence and let it teach me who I was when everything else was stripped away. Monty Williams, party of one, table for one, life for one. For now, that would have to be enough. Chapter 6. The conference room at the airport Marriott smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. 23 people showed up for the meeting, all that remained of my once 40-person operation. They sat scattered around the table like survivors of a crash, which I supposed we were. Let's not sugarcoat this, I began, standing at the head of the table. We're in deep trouble. 3 contracts canceled, 2 more on life support. The FBI investigation made us radioactive. Nobody wants to touch us. So we're done? Asked Miranda Stiles, one of my senior pilots. She'd been with me since the beginning, had flown some of the planes that carried Davis's nuclear materials without knowing it. We're done with the old way of doing business, I said. But I've got a proposal. A company called Phoenix Security Solutions wants to partner with us. High-risk cargo, government contracts, the kind of stuff most carriers won't touch. You mean spook work, said James Rodriguez, another pilot. I mean legal, legitimate contracts that require enhanced security clearances and protocols. Yes, some of it will be classified, but it's all above board. Pete spread out the contracts on the table. The money's good, really good, enough to keep everyone employed at current salaries plus hazard pay. Hazard pay? Miranda laughed, but there was no humor in it. Haven't we had enough hazards? That's exactly why they want us, I said. We've been through the worst-case scenario and survived. We know what real threats look like. That makes us valuable. The room was quiet for a moment, everyone processing. Finally, Tom Morrison spoke up from his spot by the door. I hadn't even been sure he'd show up. What about trust? He asked. How do we know this Phoenix outfit isn't another front? Another Davis situation? Because I've had them investigated, said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Agent Victoria Blackwood enter, her FBI credentials visible on her belt. She was younger than Agent Chen had been, maybe 35, with the kind of sharp eyes that missed nothing. Agent Blackwood has been assigned as our liaison, I explained. Any contract we take goes through FBI vetting first. Big Brother's watching, muttered Rodriguez. Big Brother's protecting, Blackwood corrected. Captain Williams has a target on his back. So does this company. We're here to make sure nobody uses you again. And if we don't want protection? Miranda asked. Then you're free to seek employment elsewhere, I said, harder than I'd intended. Look, I'm not forcing anyone to stay. If you want out, I'll write recommendations, help you find new positions. No hard feelings. But if you stay, you're all in. Enhanced security protocols, background checks, the works. We become the most scrutinized, most secure cargo operation in America. When do we need to decide? Asked Bobby Chen, no relation to the agent, just unfortunate naming coincidence, our youngest pilot at 26. Now, I said, Phoenix wants an answer by tomorrow. We're either all in or we're done. One by one, they voted. Miranda first, a reluctant yes, then Rodriguez, Bobby, the others. Even Tom Morrison raised his hand, though he couldn't meet my eyes when he did it. 20 yes votes, 3 walking away. Better than I'd expected. All right, then, I said. Pete will handle the paperwork. First contracts start in 2 weeks. Until then, we've got planes to prep and protocols to establish. As the meeting broke up, Blackwood approached me. Can we talk privately? We found a quiet corner of the hotel bar. She ordered water. I needed something stronger. There's been a development, she said once we were seated. We've identified another cell of Davis's network. They're based in Miami, and they're actively planning something. Why are you telling me this? Because they've been asking about you. Specifically, about your routes, your planes, your vulnerabilities. Let them come. It's not that simple. She pulled out a tablet, showed me surveillance photos. Recognize him? The man in the photos was maybe 40, dark hair, expensive suit. He looked like any of 1,000 business travelers, except for his eyes. Even in the grainy surveillance shots, they were cold as winter ocean. No. Should I? Viktor Kozlov, Davis's replacement. Former Spetsnaz, current FSB, and very, very dangerous. He blames you for Davis's death. Davis got himself killed trying to hijack my plane. Logic doesn't factor into revenge, Captain. Kozlov's already in the country, and we've lost track of him. So you want me to be bait. I want you to be careful. Vary your routes, stay unpredictable, and trust no one you don't absolutely have to. Bit late for that advice. She studied me for a moment. Your ex-wife's video files were very helpful. She did good work. Yeah, well, she always was an overachiever. Have you talked to her since the divorce? No point. She's been asking about you, through channels, wanting to know if you're safe. I took a long pull of my whiskey. Tell her I'm fine. Tell her yourself. She's your ex-wife, not your enemy. She's both. Blackwood stood to leave, then paused. Captain, I've seen a lot of broken marriages in this job. Usually they break because of secrets, lies, selfishness. Yours broke because of sacrifice. That's rare. Doesn't make it any less broken. No. But it might make it worth fixing. She left me there with my whiskey and my thoughts. Outside the window, planes took off and landed in their eternal dance, oblivious to the human dramas playing out below. That afternoon, I drove to my office, my real office, not the FBI-monitored conference rooms I'd been using. The space felt different now, violated somehow, knowing that federal agents had been through everything, cataloging my life in triplicate. But there was work to do. I spread out maps of the eastern seaboard, marking the routes Phoenix wanted us to fly. Norfolk to D.C., Miami to Atlanta, Charleston to Raleigh. All short hops, all carrying cargo marked simply as secured materials. I was deep in flight calculations when my phone rang. Unknown number. Williams. Hello, Captain. The voice was accented Russian, but trying to hide it. I believe we have mutual interests to discuss. Kozlov. A pause. You know who I am. Good. That saves time. What do you want? What I want is my colleague back. But since you and your FBI friends killed him, I'll settle for compensation. I'm hanging up now. Your ex-wife works at Norfolk General, yes? Night shifts on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Parks in Section C of the garage? My blood went ice cold. You stay away from her. Then perhaps we should meet, discuss terms. I'm not discussing anything with you. Then her blood is on your hands, Captain. Just like Dimitri's. The line went dead. I immediately called Blackwood. He just called, I said. Threatened Philippa. We're on it. I'm sending units to the hospital now. I'm going too. Captain, that's exactly what he wants. But I was already moving, grabbing my keys, heading for the door. Philippa might be my ex-wife, might have betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible, but she was still Philippa, the woman I'd married, the woman who'd sacrificed everything to save me. I couldn't let Kozlov hurt her. Not for revenge, not for leverage, not for anything. The drive to Norfolk General took 15 minutes that felt like 15 hours. Every red light was agony, every slow driver a potential enemy agent. By the time I reached the hospital, 3 FBI units were already there, setting up a perimeter. I found Blackwood in the security office, reviewing camera feeds. Where is she? Surgery. She's in the middle of a procedure, can't be interrupted. We've got agents at every entrance to the OR. He's not going to make a move here, too public, too many witnesses. Agreed, but we're not taking chances. She looked at me. You shouldn't be here. Where else would I be? Anywhere Kozlov isn't expecting you. He's counting on me running, hiding. That's what he wants me isolated, paranoid, making mistakes. So what do you propose? We give him what he wants. A meeting, but on our terms. Absolutely not. Think about it. He's in the wind. We have no idea where he is or what he's planning. But if I agree to meet, he kills you. Or we catch him. Before she could respond, the door opened and Philippa walked in, still in her surgical scrubs, looking confused and concerned. She stopped short when she saw me. Monty? Hey, what's going on? There are federal agents everywhere, and nobody will tell me. There's been a threat, Blackwood said, against you. We have reason to believe you're being targeted as leverage against your ex-husband. Philippa's face went pale. Davis's people. His replacement, I said. Guy named Kozlov. She sank into a chair, hands shaking slightly. God! I thought it was over. It's never over, I said, maybe harder than necessary. That's what happens when you play spy games. The consequences keep coming. Her eyes flashed. I was trying to save you. I know. Do you? Because it sounds like you're blaming me for this. I'm blaming everyone. You, me, Davis, the FBI. We all played our parts in this mess. Enough, Blackwood interrupted. Dr. Williams, we're placing you in protective custody, just until we resolve the situation. I can't. I have patients. Your patients will be reassigned. This is non-negotiable. Philippa looked at me, and for a moment, I saw the woman I'd married scared but determined, vulnerable but strong. How bad is it? She asked me directly. Bad enough. Are you safe? Are any of us? She stood, smoothing down her scrubs with hands that had saved countless lives but couldn't save our marriage. I need to hand off my cases. Give me an hour. After she left, Blackwood turned to me. You still care about her? I care about keeping innocent people safe. She's hardly innocent. In this, she is. Kozlov's beef is with me, not her. Then let us handle it. Go home. Stay under protection. Let us find him. But I was already forming a plan. Kozlov wanted a meeting. Fine. But it would be on my terms, in my territory, with my rules. I need to check on my planes, I said. Captain, I'm not under arrest, am I? Then I'm free to go. I left before she could argue, but I knew the FBI tail would follow me. Let them. Where I was going, I'd need all the backup I could get. The hangar was quiet when I arrived, most of the crew already gone for the day. But the Cessna Caravan was there, waiting, fully fueled and flight-ready thanks to Tom's maintenance. I did a thorough pre-flight inspection, checking every surface, every system. If Kozlov wanted to play games, I needed to be ready for anything. That's when I found a small device attached to the landing gear, no bigger than a cell phone, a tracker. I left it in place but took photos, sending them immediately to Blackwood. Her response was instant. Don't touch it. We're coming. But I had a better idea. I climbed into the cockpit and started the engines, letting them warm up while I programmed a flight plan into the GPS. Richmond to Charleston, a routine cargo run that Phoenix had proposed. My phone rang. Kozlov again. Going somewhere, Captain? Just checking my equipment. You know how it is, trust but verify. Indeed. I have a proposition. I'm listening. Tomorrow night, Warehouse District, Building 47. Come alone, no weapons, no wires. And if I don't, then your ex-wife's surgical career ends abruptly, along with everything else. If I do come, we discuss business. I have needs, you have capabilities. Perhaps we can reach an understanding. Like the understanding you had with Davis? Dmitri was a fool. He let emotion cloud his judgment. I am not emotional, Captain. I am practical. Fine. Tomorrow night. Excellent. And Captain, that tracker you found, leave it. I like to know where my assets are. He hung up. I shut down the engines and climbed out to find Blackwood and a tactical team surrounding the plane. You just agreed to meet with him, she said. It wasn't a question. I did. That's incredibly stupid. Maybe. But now we know where he'll be. You think he'll actually show? It's obviously a trap. Of course it's a trap. But he's arrogant. He thinks he's smarter than us, better trained. He'll show. And you'll be dead. Not if you do your job. She studied me for a long moment. You're not really planning to go alone, are you? I'm planning to end this. Whatever that takes. That night, I went home to find Philippa's car in my driveway. She was sitting on the porch swing, a suitcase beside her, looking lost. FBI safe house was depressing, she said by way of explanation. Figured this was safer anyway. You've got half the bureau watching the place. You can't stay here. Watch me. She stood, facing me with that determination I used to love. Look, I know you hate me. You have every right to, but this is my mess too, and I'm not running from it. It's not safe. Neither is anywhere else. At least here we can watch each other's backs. We're divorced. Divorce doesn't mean I stopped caring about you. It should. Well, it doesn't. She picked up her suitcase. I'll take the guest room. You won't even know I'm here. I wanted to argue, to throw her out, to maintain the walls I'd built. But I was tired, and tomorrow I might be walking into my own execution. If Philippa wanted to spend what might be my last night alive under the same roof, who was I to stop her? Fine, guest room, don't expect conversation. Wouldn't dream of it. But later, as I sat in the dark living room planning tomorrow's approach, she brought me coffee. Black, 2 sugars, exactly how I liked it. You're going to meet him, aren't you? She asked. Yeah. It's a trap. Yeah. You could die. Probably. She sat down across from me, not close but not far. Why? Because he threatened you. Because he won't stop until someone stops him. Because I'm tired of looking over my shoulder. Because you have a death wish? Maybe that too. We sat in silence for a while. 2 people who'd once promised to love each other forever, now strangers sharing space and fear. I'm sorry, she finally said, for everything. I know. Do you forgive me? I thought about it, really thought about it. I understand why you did it. But forgiveness, that's going to take time I might not have. Then I'll wait. Don't. Move on. Find someone who doesn't come with Russian assassins and federal surveillance. Live a normal life. Normal was never really our thing, was it? No, I guess not. She stood to leave, then paused at the doorway. Be careful tomorrow. Whatever you're planning, just come back alive. I'll do my best. But we both knew that might not be enough. In this game we'd been dragged into, good intentions and best efforts were just the opening bid. Survival required something more luck, skill, and maybe a miracle or two. As I sat alone in the dark, planning tomorrow's moves, I wondered if I had any miracles left, or if I'd used them all up surviving Davis, leaving nothing for Kozlov except hope and whatever angels watched over foolish pilots who flew too close to the sun. Tomorrow would tell. Chapter 7. Building 47 squatted on the Norfolk waterfront like a cancer, all rust-streaked metal and broken windows. The kind of place where bad things happened and nobody asked questions. Perfect for Kozlov's purposes. Perfect for mine, too. I parked the truck 3 blocks away, conscious of the FBI surveillance van that had been following me since I left the house. They'd keep their distance, Blackwood had promised that much, but they were there. My guardian angels, armed and ready. The warehouse door was open, yellow light spilling out into the darkness. An invitation or a trap. Probably both. I walked in slow, hands visible, every nerve screaming danger. The space was mostly empty except for some abandoned machinery and a table in the center with 2 chairs. Kozlov sat in one, looking like he was waiting for a business meeting instead of planning a murder. Captain Williams, punctual. I appreciate that. He was smaller than I'd expected, maybe 5'10", lean build. But his eyes were exactly what I'd seen in the photos winter cold, calculating everything, missing nothing. Kozlov. Please sit. We have much to discuss. I took the chair, noting the exits, the shadows where others might be hiding. The weight of the Glock Blackwood didn't know I was carrying pressed against my ribs. Let's skip the foreplay, I said. What do you want? Direct. So American. He smiled, but it didn't reach those cold eyes. What I want is simple. You killed my friend. Now you work for me. Davis wasn't your friend. He was an asset you were running. Semantics. He was useful. Now he's dead. You're useful. Now you're mine. I don't think so. No? He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. It was Philippa in her kitchen, my kitchen taken through the window. The timestamp was 30 minutes ago. My associate is very patient. One word from me, and your ex-wife bleeds out on your floor. Even with her surgical skills, she won't be able to save herself. Rage burned in my chest, but I kept my face neutral. She's nothing to me. We're divorced. Yet she slept in your house last night. You still care, Captain. That weakness will cost you. What's the job? Ah, now we're talking business. He leaned back, comfortable as a king on his throne. 3 shipments. Norfolk to Miami, Miami to Houston, Houston to Los Angeles. Simple cargo runs, nothing suspicious. What's the cargo? Does it matter? You'll do it anyway. Humor me. Technical equipment, computer components, perfectly legal. The manifests will be clean, the inspections will pass. You'll just be a cargo pilot doing his job. Except I won't be. Except you won't be, he agreed. But plausible deniability is such a beautiful thing, isn't it? When? First shipment in 3 days. You'll receive specific instructions tomorrow. And if I refuse, he shrugged, then I kill everyone you care about. Your ex-wife, your pilots, that nice elderly neighbor who waters her roses every morning. Did you know Mrs. Henderson has a heart condition? It would be tragic if she accidentally received the wrong medication. You son of a bitch! I'm practical, Captain. Emotion is weakness. You Americans never learned that lesson. Is that what you told Davis? Before you got him killed? His face darkened. Dimitri's death is on you. Dimitri's death is on Dimitri. He got greedy, got sloppy, got dead. You sent him here to die. I sent him here to succeed. Then you're either stupid or lying. Either way, you're next. He moved faster than I expected, the gun appearing in his hand like magic. But I was already diving sideways, my own weapon clearing leather as the chair crashed backward. His first shot went wide, sparking off the concrete behind me. My first shot didn't. The bullet caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. He stayed on his feet, though, bringing his weapon back up. That's when the warehouse exploded with light and sound. FBI, drop your weapons! Tactical teams poured in from every entrance, red dots dancing across Kozlov's chest like angry fireflies. He looked at me, understanding dawning in those cold eyes. You were wired. No, I said, keeping my gun on him. But they were listening anyway. Amazing what modern surveillance can do. He laughed, actually laughed, blood running down his arm. You think you've won? This is bigger than me, bigger than Dimitri. You've stopped nothing. Maybe, but I've stopped you. He raised his gun not at me, but at his own head. 3 agents fired simultaneously. Kozlov crumpled, his weapon clattering across the concrete. Blackwood was beside me in seconds, checking for injuries. You okay? Yeah. That was stupid. You were supposed to wait for backup. He had someone on Philippa. We know. We got him 10 minutes ago trying to break into your house. Your ex-wife is safe. Relief flooded through me so hard my knees almost buckled. Is he talking? Not yet, but he will. She looked at Kozlov, who was being worked on by paramedics. Still alive, but barely. Nice shooting. I was aiming for center mass. Sure you were. The warehouse filled with federal agents, crime scene techs, all the apparatus of justice grinding into motion. I gave my statement 3 times to 3 different people, watched them bag evidence, photograph everything, turn Kozlov's trap into a federal case file. It was nearly dawn by the time they let me go. I drove home on autopilot, exhausted beyond measure, to find Philippa waiting on the porch with coffee and tears. You're alive, she said. Disappointed? Relieved. She handed me the coffee. Agent Blackwood called, told me what happened. It's over. Kozlov's done. His network's compromised. We're safe. Are we? I really looked at her for the first time since this nightmare began. She looked older, worn down by fear and guilt and the weight of choices that couldn't be undone. "Yeah," I said. "We're safe. I mean us, Monty. Are we over? We're divorced. That's paperwork. I'm asking about us." I didn't have an answer for that. Too much had happened, too much trust broken, too many lies told even with the best intentions. But sitting there on my porch, watching the sun rise over Virginia Beach, I felt something I hadn't expected. Possibility. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe we start with being friends and see where it goes. Friends who used to be married? Friends who saved each other's lives. That has to count for something." She smiled, small but genuine. "I'll take it." My phone rang. Pete, probably wondering why I hadn't shown up for our morning meeting. But it wasn't Pete. "Captain Williams, this is Director Harrison, FBI. I wanted to personally thank you for your assistance in this matter." "Just doing my job, sir." "No, you went well beyond that, which is why I'm calling. We'd like to offer you a position, consultant, working with our counterterrorism division. Your unique skills and experience would be invaluable. I have a company to run. You can do both. In fact, we'd prefer it. Your cargo operation gives you access and cover we couldn't replicate. So you want me to be a spy? I want you to be a patriot with a paycheck. Think about it, Captain. We'll be in touch." He hung up, leaving me with another life-changing decision. But that was for later. Right now, I just wanted to sit on my porch with my ex-wife, drink coffee, and watch the world wake up. "New job offer?" Philippa asked. "Something like that." "You going to take it?" "Maybe, probably, I don't know." "You'd be good at it. You've already proven that." "I've proven I can survive. That's not the same as being good at something." "Sometimes it is." We sat in comfortable silence. Two damaged people who'd been through hell and come out the other side scarred but breathing. It wasn't the life we'd planned, wasn't the marriage we'd promised each other. But it was real, and after all the lies, real felt like a gift. "I should go," Philippa said eventually. "Let you get some rest. You can stay. Guest room's still yours if you want it." "That's probably not a good idea." "Probably not," I agreed. "Stay anyway." She did. And that night, for the first time in weeks, I slept without nightmares. The storm had passed, leaving wreckage in its wake, but also clarity. I knew who I was now, what I was capable of, what I was willing to sacrifice, and what I wasn't. The next morning, I called Director Harrison and accepted his offer. Then I called Pete and told him we were taking the Phoenix contract. Then I sat down at my computer and started planning flight routes that would serve two masters commercial cargo and national security. My phone buzzed with a text from Philippa. "Dinner tonight? Just friends." I smiled and typed back, "Sure, just friends." But we both knew that was a lie. Not the dangerous kind that destroyed trust, but the hopeful kind that left room for something new to grow. We'd been through the worst betrayal imaginable and survived. Maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other, or forward to something entirely new. Time would tell. For now, I had planes to fly, cargo to move, and a country to quietly protect. Monty Williams, cargo pilot and reluctant spy, ready for whatever came next. The storm had passed, but I was still flying. Chapter 8. 3 weeks after Kozlov bled out on a warehouse floor, I found myself in a Pentagon conference room that probably cost more than my house. Director Harrison sat across from me, flanked by people whose titles contained too many acronyms to remember. "Your first mission was a success," Harrison said, sliding a folder across the table. "The Phoenix shipments went perfectly. No one suspected a thing. They were just cargo runs. With surveillance equipment hidden in the legitimate cargo, yes. Thanks to you, we've identified 6 more cells operating on the eastern seaboard." "Great. So when do I get to go back to being just a pilot?" "That's actually why we're here." A woman to Harrison's left spoke up, Assistant Director something or other. "We have a situation that requires your particular skills. I fly planes. That's my particular skill. You fly planes with federal credentials, a security clearance, and a proven ability to handle extreme pressure," she corrected. "We need someone to infiltrate a smuggling ring operating out of Puerto Rico. They're moving weapons to South American insurgents. And you want me to fly for them?" We want you to become them, work your way in, gain their trust, identify their supply chain. I'm not a spy. No, Harrison agreed. You're better. You're a legitimate businessman who's already been investigated and cleared. Your cover is that you're desperate after nearly losing everything to Davis. Morally flexible, financially motivated. Exactly what they're looking for. I looked at the folder. Photos of men with dead eyes and expensive suits, shipping manifests, bank records. Another web of lies to navigate. How long? 6 months, maybe less, depending on how quickly you gain their trust. And my company? Continues normal operations. Pete runs the day-to-day. You're the absent owner dealing with personal issues. My personal issues being? Your messy reconciliation with your ex-wife, the assistant director said with a slight smile. It's perfect cover. Everyone knows the story. Hero pilot trying to rebuild his marriage after the betrayal. Very sympathetic. Very distracting. Philippa doesn't know anything about this. She doesn't need to. Just be seen together occasionally. Have dinner, take walks, look confused and conflicted. Shouldn't be hard. She was right. It wouldn't be hard because it was true. Philippa and I had been dancing around each other for weeks. Not quite together, but unable to fully separate. I need to think about it. Think fast, Harrison said. The opportunity window is small. Their current pilot just got arrested in Miami. They need a replacement yesterday. I left the Pentagon with the folder and a head full of doubts. In the parking lot, I called Philippa. Are you free tonight? Why? Suspicion in her voice. We'd had dinner twice since Kozlov, both times awkward and loaded with unspoken questions. I need to talk to someone, and you're the only one who understands this world. Your world or theirs? Both. Same world now, isn't it? She sighed. I'm off at 7. Your place or mine? Neutral ground? That Italian place on Atlantic Avenue? The one where you proposed? Different Italian place. Monty, there's only one Italian place on Atlantic. Then I guess it's that one. She laughed, first time I'd heard it in months. 8 o'clock. Don't be late. I spent the afternoon at the hangar, going through maintenance logs with Tom, pretending everything was normal. But my mind was in Puerto Rico, imagining myself walking into another den of wolves. You okay, boss? Tom asked. You seem distracted. Just thinking about expansion possibilities. After everything that happened, you want to expand? What else am I going to do? Shrink? Hide? That's not who I am. No, he agreed. You're the guy who flies into storms. Speaking of which, how are the planes? 5 birds ready to fly, 2 in maintenance, 3 on active contracts. He pulled up the schedule on his tablet. Phoenix wants 2 more runs next week. Richmond to Savannah. Approve it. You're not flying them yourself? I need some personal time. Pete can handle the Phoenix runs. Tom nodded, but I could see the questions in his eyes. Everyone had questions these days. The problem with being at the center of a federal investigation was that people never stopped wondering what you were really up to. That evening, I arrived at Giuseppe's, that was the actual name of the Italian place, 10 minutes early. Philippa was already there, sitting at a corner table, wearing the blue dress I'd bought her for our 2nd anniversary. Subtle, I said, sitting down. I thought we were being seen together. Might as well look the part. Who told you? Agent Blackwood. She didn't give details, just said you might need someone to talk to, that there was another situation. There's always another situation. The waiter brought wine, Chianti, what we'd drunk on our first date. Philippa had ordered it without asking. After 3 years of marriage, she still knew me better than anyone. So, she said after the waiter left, Puerto Rico? How did you... I'm not stupid, Monty. FBI visits, you suddenly needing to be seen with me, talking about expansion into Caribbean routes. It doesn't take a genius. They want me to infiltrate a smuggling ring. Of course they do, and you're going to do it. I haven't decided yet. Yes, you have. You decided the moment they asked. It's who you are, the guy who flies into danger because someone needs to. Maybe I'm tired of being that guy. No, you're tired of the consequences. But that's not the same thing. I drank my wine, studied the woman across from me. In the candlelight, she looked like the resident I'd fallen for, before the lies and betrayal and sacrifice. Come with me. The words surprised both of us. What? To Puerto Rico. Come with me. The cover story works better if we're actually trying to reconcile. Take a leave from the hospital. Spend 6 months in the Caribbean figuring out if we can salvage this. Salvage our marriage or help you salvage your mission? Both. Neither. I don't know. I reached across the table, not quite touching her hand. I know I can't trust you the way I used to. But when things go bad, you're still the person I want watching my back. That's not love, Monty. That's tactical advantage. Maybe, but maybe it's a starting point. She was quiet for a long moment, turning her wine glass in slow circles. I hurt you. Deliberately, calculatedly hurt you to save you. How do you come back from that? I don't know, but other people have. Other marriages have survived worse. Have they? My parents did. My dad had an affair when I was 15. My mom forgave him. They just celebrated 40 years last month. You never told me that. You never needed to know before. The food came pasta arrabbiata for her, seafood linguine for me. We ate in silence for a while, both lost in our own thoughts. If I come, she finally said, it's as your backup, not your wife. We maintain separate spaces, separate lives. We play the reconciling couple in public, but in private, we're just partners. Partners. Mission partners, like Davis and me, except without the, I get it. Do you? Because this isn't about us getting back together. This is about keeping you alive while you do something stupidly dangerous. I understand. I need 2 weeks to arrange coverage at the hospital. I can wait 2 weeks. And when it's over, when the mission's done, we go our separate ways. Clean break. If that's what you want, it's what needs to happen. But even as she said it, I saw the doubt in her eyes. We'd been married 3 years, together 4. You don't just turn that off, no matter how much betrayal sits between you. There's something else, I said. The people I'm infiltrating, they're dangerous. More dangerous than Davis or Kozlov. If they find out what I'm really doing, they'll kill us both. Yes. I'm a doctor, Monty. I deal with life and death every day. Not your own. Sometimes that too. She refilled our wine glasses. Remember that patient who came in last year? The gang member who coded on my table? The one whose friends threatened you? Them. I still operated. Still saved him. Because that's what I do. I fix broken things, even when it's dangerous. I'm not broken. Aren't you? I didn't have an answer for that. Maybe I was broken. Maybe we both were. Maybe that's why we fit together, 2 fractured people who knew each other's fault lines. Puerto Rico, she said, like she was testing the words. 6 months of pretending to love each other. We don't have to pretend that. We just have to pretend we're trying. Right, because the love's still there. Isn't it? She looked at me for a long moment. Yeah, it is. That's the problem, Monty. The love was never the problem. We finished dinner talking about logistics, what she'd need to bring, how we'd maintain cover, what our story would be. By the time we left, we had a plan. Not for our marriage, but for the mission. In the parking lot, she stopped at her car, keys in hand. This is probably a mistake, she said. Probably. We'll probably end up hating each other. Maybe. Or dead. Also possible. She laughed, dark and bitter. God, we're fucked up. Yeah, we are. I'll see you in 2 weeks. She drove away, and I stood in the parking lot thinking about crosswinds, those sudden shifts that could knock you off course or, if you knew how to use them, help you reach your destination faster. Philippa was my crosswind. She'd knocked me off my original course, sent me spiraling into this world of spies and lies. But maybe, just maybe, she could also help me navigate it. The next morning, I called Harrison and accepted the mission. Then I called Pete and told him he'd be running things for 6 months. You're taking a vacation? Now? Not a vacation. Personal time. Working on my marriage. With Philippa? The woman who, yeah, that one. Boss, no offense, but are you insane? Probably, but I'm doing it anyway. That became my motto for the next 2 weeks. Probably insane. Doing it anyway. I studied the files Harrison had given me, Memorized faces and names and shipping routes. I practiced my cover story until it felt real, the desperate pilot trying to rebuild his life and marriage, willing to bend the rules to make ends meet. The night before we left for Puerto Rico, Philippa showed up at my door with 2 suitcases and a medical bag. "Just in case," she said about the medical supplies. "Expecting trouble?" "I'm traveling with you. Trouble's guaranteed." We sat on the porch, watching the stars, not quite touching but close enough to feel each other's warmth. "You know this is crazy, right?" she said. "Which part? The fake reconciliation or the real infiltration?" "All of it, the whole thing. Us. Us has always been crazy." "True." She pulled her knees up to her chest, looking younger, vulnerable. "Do you think we'll survive this? The mission? Each other?" I thought about it. 6 months of pretending to rebuild while actually tearing apart. 6 months of being partners without being partners. 6 months of crosswinds that could destroy us or deliver us. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but we've survived everything else. So far. So far." The next morning, we flew to San Juan on a commercial flight, sitting together like any couple trying to reconnect. She held my hand during takeoff, muscle memory from hundreds of flights together. I didn't pull away. As Puerto Rico appeared below us, green and gleaming in the Caribbean sun, I wondered what we were really doing. Was this about the mission, about patriotism and duty? Or was it about us, about finding out if love could survive betrayal, if trust could be rebuilt from rubble? Maybe both, maybe neither, maybe it didn't matter. The plane descended through scattered clouds, crosswinds rocking us gently. I squeezed Philippa's hand and she squeezed back. Whatever happened next, we'd face it together. Partners, whatever that meant. The landing gear deployed with a familiar thunk, and I smiled. I was flying into another storm, but this time I wasn't alone. My crosswind was with me, unpredictable and dangerous and absolutely essential. "Ready?" Philippa asked as we touched down. "No, you?" "Not even close." "Perfect. Let's do this." The plane rolled to a stop and we gathered our things, 2 broken people pretending to be whole, about to pretend to be broken in a different way. It was insane, dangerous, probably fatal. In other words, just another day in the life of Monty Williams, pilot, spy, and fool for love. The crosswinds were picking up. Time to see where they'd take us. Chapter 9. The Caribbean heat hit like a slap when we stepped off the plane in San Juan. Even at 8 in the evening, the air was thick enough to swim through, heavy with salt and aviation fuel and the peculiar sweetness of tropical decay. "Welcome to paradise," Philippa muttered, pulling her hair up off her neck. We'd been in Puerto Rico for 3 days now, playing the reconciling couple at a beachfront rental in Isla Verde. 3 days of careful choreography, holding hands at restaurants, stolen kisses for anyone watching, sleeping in separate bedrooms once the door closed behind us. "You ready for this?" I asked, as our Uber wound through the narrow streets toward the meeting point. "Ready to watch you walk into another trap?" "Not really." Tonight was first contact with the smuggling ring, a man named Carlos Mendoza, who ran charter flights throughout the Caribbean and needed a pilot with, as his intermediary put it, flexible morals and American credentials. The bar was exactly what you'd expect: dim lights, sticky floors, reggaeton pounding from blown speakers, tourists trying too hard to look local, locals trying to avoid the tourists. And in the back corner, Carlos Mendoza holding court like a king in exile. He was bigger than his photo suggested, maybe 6'3", built like a boxer gone to seed. Gold chains nested in his chest hair, visible through an unbuttoned guayabera that had seen better decades. "Captain Williams," he said, not getting up. "The famous pilot who stopped the Russians. What brings a hero to my humble establishment?" "Heroes don't pay bills," I said, taking the chair across from him. Philippa sat beside me, playing the supportive wife, her hand on my knee. "No, they don't." He studied me with eyes that missed nothing. "But they do attract attention. FBI, DEA, every 3-letter agency knows your name. They also know I'm clean. Investigated, cleared, and desperate. My company's bleeding money, my marriage is..." I glanced at Philippa, let some real pain show through. Complicated. I need work, and I'm not in a position to be picky. And your lovely wife? She's comfortable with moral flexibility? Philippa leaned forward, and I saw her shift into the role not the surgeon, but the woman who'd fooled a Russian spy. My husband nearly went to prison because he played by the rules. The government he served threw him to the wolves. So yes, Mr. Mendoza, I'm comfortable with whatever keeps us afloat. Carlos smiled, gold tooth catching the light. I like her. Most wives, they pretend not to know. Yours, she's honest about the dishonesty. What's the job? I asked. Simple cargo runs. San Juan to various Caribbean islands. Sometimes Miami, sometimes further south. Manifests will say medical supplies, agricultural equipment, boring things that customs agents don't examine closely. But they're not. Does it matter? You fly from point A to point B. What happens to the cargo after delivery isn't your concern. It is if I get caught. Then don't get caught. He slid a folder across the table. First run is tomorrow night. San Juan to Antigua. 5,000 cash on completion. I opened the folder, memorized the details. A twin-engine Beechcraft, registration numbers that would check out, flight plan already filed. Professional operation, which made it more dangerous. One condition, I said. My wife flies with me. That's unusual. She's my co-pilot in everything now. We're rebuilding trust. Shared risk, shared reward. Carlos looked between us, reading the dynamics. Very romantic or very stupid. Maybe both. That's our problem, not yours. True. He stood and his two bodyguards materialized from the shadows. Tomorrow night, Hangar 12 at Isla Grande Airport. Don't be late. Don't be followed. And Captain, don't think about being a hero again. Heroes in my business have very short careers. After he left, Philippa and I sat nursing our drinks, letting the noise wash over us. He knows, she said quietly. Maybe. No, maybe about it. This is a test run. He's seeing if we'll actually do it. Then we do it. Monty. We're too deep to back out now. Besides, the FBI needs us to make at least one run, establish credibility. We left the bar separately protocol in case we were being watched. I walked the long way back to the rental house, checking for surveillance, finding none, or finding professionals good enough that I couldn't spot them. Back at the house, I found Agent Victoria Blackwood waiting in our living room, having let herself in like she owned the place. Cozy, she said. How was Mendoza? Suspicious but interested. First run's tomorrow night. We know. We've been monitoring. She pulled out a tablet, showed me satellite footage of the hangar. The Beechcraft is already loaded. Roughly 300 kilos of cargo distributed across medical supply containers. Weapons? Most likely. Small arms, ammunition, maybe some explosives. Nothing nuclear, if that's what you're worried about. I've had enough nuclear for a lifetime. Philippa came in from the bedroom, having changed into shorts and a tank top. Even playing house, she looked good enough to make my chest ache. Agent Blackwood, come to check on your assets? Just making sure you're both comfortable with tomorrow. Once you fly that cargo, you're accomplices. We can protect you legally, but if something goes wrong in the moment. We die, I finished. We're aware. Good. There's a tracker in your watch, Captain. Hit the emergency beacon if things go sideways. We'll have a team standing by in Antigua. After she left, Philippa and I stood on the balcony, watching the ocean turn silver under the moon. Last chance to back out, I said. I'm not backing out. Why? This isn't your fight anymore. We're divorced, remember? She was quiet for a long moment. Remember what I said on the plane? About fixing broken things? Yeah. Well, maybe I'm trying to fix us. Not the marriage that's gone, but us, the people we were before all this. Maybe if we finish this together, we can both move on. And if we die trying, then at least we die as partners, not strangers. I wanted to argue, to protect her, to send her away. But she was right. We needed to finish what Davis had started, one way or another. The next evening, we arrived at Isla Grande Airport as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire. Hangar 12 was at the far end, away from the commercial terminals. The Beechcraft King Air sat waiting, already prepped and fueled. Carlos was there with his men watching us like a hawk studies mice. Ready, Captain? Always. Good. Simple flight. Land, unload, return. The men in Antigua know you're coming. I did my walk-around, checking control surfaces, looking for problems or surveillance devices. The plane was clean, well-maintained. These people were professionals, which worried me more than amateurs would have. Everything looks good, I told Philippa as we climbed into the cockpit. Define good, she muttered, strapping in. We ran through the checklist, started the engines. The towers cleared us without question. Our flight plan was perfectly legitimate, just another charter heading to Antigua. It wasn't until we were at cruising altitude, the lights of Puerto Rico fading behind us, that Philippa spoke. You know this is probably a trap. Everything's been a trap since Davis walked into our lives. True. She checked the instruments, all normal. But this feels different. Too easy. She was right. In my experience, when things felt easy, they were about to go spectacularly wrong. 90 minutes later, Antigua appeared ahead, a cluster of lights against the dark ocean. The airport was quiet at this hour, only a few private jets on the tarmac. Beechcraft 97 Charlie, cleared for approach runway 07, the tower said. We landed smooth, taxied to the designated hangar. 3 men were waiting, along with a truck that had seen better decades. Stay in the plane, I told Philippa. Like hell. Please, just this once. Let me handle it. She looked at me, saw something in my expression. 5 minutes, then I'm coming after you. I climbed down to meet the welcoming committee. The leader was young, maybe 25, with the kind of nervous energy that made me want to reach for a weapon I wasn't carrying. You're late, he said. Headwinds. Mendoza said you'd have an excuse. It's not an excuse, it's a fact. Check the weather reports. He smiled, thin and dangerous. I don't care about weather, Captain. I care about cargo. Let's unload. They worked fast, efficient, clearing the plane in under 10 minutes. I stayed back, watching, noting faces and procedures, everything useful for the FBI's files. Tell Mendoza we're satisfied, the leader said when they finished. There'll be more work if you want it. We want it. Good. Someone will contact you. They drove away, leaving us alone with an empty plane and the weight of what we'd just done. Feel like a criminal yet? Philippa asked as I climbed back into the cockpit. I felt like one since the day I started hiding those planes from you. That was different. That was just money. This is real. We flew back to San Juan in silence, both lost in our own thoughts. Below us, the Caribbean stretched dark and endless, hiding who knew how many secrets, how many crimes, how many bodies. We landed just after midnight, finding Carlos waiting in the hangar. Successful delivery? No problems. He handed me an envelope. 5,000 as promised. There's another run in 3 days if you're interested. Haiti this time. Haiti's a mess right now. Which is why it pays 10,000. He smiled. Risk and reward, Captain. The eternal equation. After he left, Philippa and I drove back to the house in silence. The envelope full of blood money sat between us like an accusation. We can't keep doing this, she said finally. We have to, just until the FBI has enough. How much is enough? How many guns do we have to deliver before we can stop? I didn't have an answer. In this game, enough was never enough. There was always one more run, one more risk, one more compromise. Back at the house, I found a message from Blackwood. Good work. Continue mission. Continue. Like we had a choice anymore. Philippa went to bed without saying goodnight. I sat on the balcony with a beer, watching the ocean and thinking about flight paths. Every pilot knows that the most dangerous part of any flight isn't the takeoff or the landing, it's the middle, when you're too far from your origin to go back but not close enough to your destination to be safe. That's where we were now, Philippa and I. Too far from who we'd been, not close enough to who we were becoming. Suspended between earth and sky, between legal and illegal, between love and whatever came after love died. Tomorrow we'd play the reconciling couple again. In 3 days we'd fly guns to Haiti. And somewhere in between we'd try to remember who we were before all this started. The moon set over the Caribbean, and I was still sitting there, planning flight paths through moral ambiguity, when I heard Philippa's door open. Can't sleep either? She asked, joining me on the balcony. Too much to think about. Remember our honeymoon? That resort in Turks and Caicos? Yeah. We said we'd come back every year, make it our tradition. Plans change. Everything changes. She pulled her knees up to her chest. Monty, what are we doing? Really doing? Surviving. Is that enough? It has to be. We sat together in the darkness. Two people who'd loved and lost and were still losing, piece by piece, run by run. Tomorrow would bring new compromises, new dangers, new lies to tell ourselves and each other. But tonight, we were just two broken people sharing silence and understanding that some storms you don't survive, you just fly through them and hope there's something left of you on the other side. Chapter 10. The call came at 3 in the morning, 6 days into our Caribbean charade. I grabbed the burner phone from the nightstand, already knowing this wouldn't be good news. Captain Williams? The voice was unfamiliar, accented. There's been a complication. Who is this? A friend of Carlos. He's been arrested. DEA grabbed him 2 hours ago. I sat up, instantly awake. Where? Does it matter? He's gone. But he left instructions. The Haiti run happens tomorrow as scheduled. You're flying it. I don't take orders from voices on phones. Then take orders from this. We know your wife isn't really your wife anymore. We know about the divorce, the FBI connection, all of it. My blood went ice cold. I don't know what. Save it, Captain. Here's the deal. You fly tomorrow's run or we send some very interesting photos to some very dangerous people. Photos of you and Agent Blackwood having coffee yesterday. Photos of your wife meeting with federal handlers. Philippa appeared in my doorway, hair mussed from sleep. I held up a finger, wait. If you know all that, why not just kill us? Because dead pilots don't fly planes, and right now, we need a pilot more than we need revenge. Tomorrow, Hangar 12, 6 p.m. Come alone this time. Your wife stays home. The line went dead. What's wrong? Philippa asked. We're blown. I explained the call while throwing on clothes. We needed to move fast. Contact Blackwood. Get out before the front door exploded inward. 3 men rushed in, guns drawn. Not DEA, not FBI. Carlos's people. Nobody moves, the leader said. I recognized him from the bar, one of Carlos's bodyguards, the quiet one who'd watched everything. Raphael, I said, remembering his name. This isn't necessary. Sit, both of you. We sat on the couch while they searched the house. They found the FBI surveillance devices within minutes, crushing each one methodically. You're not very good at this, Raphael said. Real criminals would have found these day one. We're not real criminals, Philippa said. No, you're worse. You're traitors. He sat across from us, gun casual in his lap. Carlos trusted you. I told him not to, but he liked your story. The betrayed hero, the broken marriage, very romantic. It's not a story, I said. The marriage is broken. The betrayal was real. But the reconciliation? That's fake. He looked at Philippa. You're good, Doctor. Almost believable. But you flinch when he touches you. Subtle, but I notice things. What do you want? I asked. Same thing the voice told you. You fly tomorrow. Deliver the cargo to Haiti, then disappear. Leave the Caribbean. Leave the country if you're smart. This is your only warning. And if we refuse? Then you die tonight. Both of you. They'll find your bodies in a burned rental car. Tragic accident. Very sad. He stood. Choose. We'll fly, Philippa said before I could speak. But we need guarantees. Safe passage out after the run. You get to live. That's your guarantee. They left as suddenly as they'd come, leaving us sitting in a house that no longer felt safe. We need to run, I said. Now. Where? They're watching us. The FBI can't help without blowing the whole operation. Then we blow it. Better than dying. No. She stood, pacing. Think about it. They need us for this run. Something special about it. Something only we can do. What's special about us? You're a federal air marshal. Former, but still. You have credentials, recognition. Maybe this isn't just about moving cargo. I thought about it. She was right, there were dozens of pilots in the Caribbean who'd fly anything for the right price. Why force us? My phone buzzed. Blackwood. Abort mission. Extraction in 1 hour. I showed Philippa the message. Too late, she said. They're watching. We try to leave, we're dead. We fly to Haiti, we're probably dead anyway. Maybe, but at least we'll be in the air. You always said you'd rather die flying than on the ground. I said that about combat missions, not smuggling runs. Same difference now. She was right. Again. It was becoming a habit I both hated and relied on. The next 18 hours crawled by. We played our parts the struggling couple trying to act normal while men in cars watched our every move. Philippa cooked breakfast. I pretended to read. We had a staged argument about money loud enough for anyone listening to hear. All theater, all meaningless. At 5 p.m., we drove to the airport. Philippa was supposed to stay behind, but I wasn't leaving her alone with Carlos's men. You were told to come alone, Raphael said when he saw her. She's my co-pilot. I need her for a flight this distance. The boss said, the boss is in federal custody. You want this plane flown or not? He made a phone call. Rapid Spanish I could barely follow. Finally, he nodded. She flies. But Captain, understand this is your last job for us. After tonight, you're done. Leave Puerto Rico and never come back. Gladly. The plane was different this time, a larger Cessna 208 Caravan built for cargo. It was loaded heavy, nearly at max weight. What are we carrying? I asked. Does it matter? It does if it affects flight characteristics. Medical supplies, vaccines for the cholera outbreak. He said it straight-faced, like we were supposed to believe it. Like vaccines needed armed guards and midnight flights. I did my pre-flight check, finding nothing wrong except the obvious we were about to fly God knows what into one of the most dangerous places in the Western Hemisphere. You could just shoot us now, I told Raphael. Save everyone time. But then who would fly the plane? He smiled. Besides, you might survive. Stranger things have happened. In the cockpit, Philippa was running through systems checks. Everything looks good. Except, everything. If something happens, don't. She cut me off. No deathbed confessions. We fly, we land, we disappear. That's the plan. That's barely a plan. It's what we've got. The tower cleared us without question. Whatever the manifest said, it was official enough to pass scrutiny. We took off into a perfect Caribbean sunset, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink that belonged on postcards, not smuggling runs. Below, Puerto Rico fell away, and with it, any pretense of safety. So, Philippa said once we reached cruising altitude, want to talk about us? Now? When else? We might die in Haiti. Seems like a good time to clear the air. What's to clear? You betrayed me to save me. I divorced you for it. End of story. That's the what, not the why. The why doesn't matter. It does to me. She adjusted our heading slightly. I need to know, could you ever forgive me? I thought about it, really thought about it. 3 weeks of playing house, of pretending to reconcile, of remembering what we'd had and lost. I already have, I said finally. I forgave you the moment I understood why you did it. But forgiveness isn't the same as trust. I know. Do you? Because I see how you look at me sometimes, like you're waiting for things to go back to how they were. They can't. We can't. I know that too. We flew in silence for a while, watching the stars emerge one by one. Below, the Caribbean was going dark, islands scattered like breadcrumbs across black water. I loved you, she said suddenly. Present tense, I still love you. That's why I can't trust myself around you. Philippa. No, let me finish. After this is over, I'm leaving. Not just Puerto Rico, Virginia, too. I've got a job offer in Seattle, Harborview Medical Center, trauma unit. That's across the country. That's the point. We need distance, Monty, real distance, not this pretend separation where we keep getting pulled back together. She was right. Of course she was right. But knowing it didn't make it hurt less. When? I asked. Next month, after we testify or whatever the FBI needs. Good, that's good. But it wasn't good. It was necessary, which was different. Haiti appeared ahead, lights scattered and dim. The airport was barely functional, power flickering, 1 runway light and 3 actually working. Jesus, Philippa muttered. This is insane. Port-au-Prince Tower. This is Cessna November 47 Lima requesting approach. The response was static-filled, barely intelligible, but I made out cleared to land. The approach was terrifying, no proper guidance. Winds gusting, mountains invisible in the darkness. I'd flown combat approaches that felt safer. We touched down hard, bounced once, settled. The runway was cracked, weeds growing through concrete. This wasn't an airport anymore, it was a grave that didn't know it was dead yet. Stay with the plane, I told Philippa. Engines running. Monty, please, just this once. 3 vehicles approached 2 trucks, and what might have been an ambulance but was probably just painted to look like one. Men with rifles jumped out, young faces hard with desperation. The leader was older, maybe 40, wearing military fatigues with no insignia. You're late. Headwinds, I said, sticking to the script. Unload quickly. Government forces patrol this area. They emptied the plane in minutes, efficient despite the chaos. I saw inside one crate as it was dropped rifles, ammunition, enough to arm a small militia, which was probably exactly what they were doing. Tell your boss we need more, the leader said. Twice this much next week. I'll pass it along. You do that? He handed me an envelope. Payment for Mendoza. Tell him we're grateful. They drove off into the Haitian darkness, leaving us alone on a cracked runway in a failed state. I climbed back into the cockpit. Let's go. That's it? That's it. We took off quickly. No clearance, no communication. Just throttles forward and pray. At 500 feet, the engine coughed. What was that? Philippa asked. I checked the gauges. Fuel pressure dropping. We've got a problem. The engine coughed again, then died. In a twin-engine plane, losing one engine is an emergency. In a single-engine Cessna, it's a death sentence. Restart procedures, I said, working through them even as we started losing altitude. Come on, come on! Nothing. We're going down. Where? I looked ahead. Ocean to the right, mountains to the left, and straight ahead a strip of beach, maybe a road, barely visible in the moonlight. There. Brace for impact. The next 60 seconds lasted forever. Philippa calling out altitude and airspeed while I fought to keep us level, to stretch our glide just a little further. The ground rushing up, details becoming visible, not a road, a beach, but rocky, uneven. Hold on! We hit hard. The landing gear collapsed instantly. The prop dug into sand and rocks, cartwheeling us sideways. My head slammed into the side window. Philippa screamed. Metal shrieked and tore. Then silence. I came to hanging from my harness, blood in my eyes. Philippa? I'm okay, I think. We need to get out. The plane was on its side, my door against the ground. We crawled out through the broken windscreen, cutting ourselves on glass, falling onto wet sand. You're hurt, Philippa said, examining my head with practiced fingers. I'm alive. That's what counts. We need to move. Find help. No, we need to disappear. I pulled out the satellite phone Blackwood had hidden in my flight bag. Miracle of miracles, still working. This is Captain Williams. We're down on the north coast of Haiti, requesting immediate extraction. Copy that. Rescue bird inbound. Find cover and wait. We stumbled up the beach to a cluster of rocks, hiding like fugitives, which I supposed we were now. So much for flying off into the sunset, Philippa said. More like crashing into it. She laughed, slightly hysterical. God, we're a mess. Yeah. Was it worth it? Any of it? I thought about the guns we'd delivered, the people they'd probably kill, the choices that had led us to this beach. Ask me if we survive. When we survive. Optimist. Realist. We've survived everything else. The helicopter appeared an hour later. Navy markings, but probably CIA. They pulled us up and away, leaving the crashed plane like a broken bird on the beach. Where to? The crew chief asked. Guantanamo, the pilot answered. Orders from high up. You two must be important. We're nobody, I said. Nobody doesn't get this kind of extraction. 3 hours later, we were in a military hospital, getting patched up and debriefed. Blackwood appeared at dawn, looking tired but relieved. You're lucky to be alive. Fuel contamination? I asked. Or sabotage? We're checking. She sat down, pulled out a tablet. The good news is Carlos flipped. Full cooperation. The network's rolling up as we speak. So it's over? This part is. You'll need to testify, but after that, you're free. Free. The word felt strange, like clothes that didn't fit anymore. What about us? Philippa asked. Witness protection? If you want it. Or you can go back to your lives, such as they are. I'm going to Seattle, Philippa said. New start. And you? Blackwood asked me. I don't know. Maybe nowhere. Maybe everywhere. She nodded. The FBI could still use you. Consulting work. Nothing dangerous. I'll think about it. She left us alone in the hospital room, two battered people at a crossroads with no map. This is it, isn't it? Philippa said. The end. Of this chapter, yeah. You could come to Seattle. No, I couldn't. I know. Had to ask, though. We sat in silence, holding hands despite everything, because some habits die harder than trust. Chapter 11. The FAA hearing room hadn't changed in the 2 months since I'd last been there. Same fluorescent lights, same uncomfortable chairs, same smell of burnt coffee and broken dreams. But I had changed. The man sitting at the witness table wasn't the same pilot who'd owned a secret fleet and lived a double life. State your name for the record. Montgomery Williams, Captain, retired. Mr. Williams, you're here requesting reinstatement of your commercial pilot's license. I am. The three-person panel looked through their files, probably reading about my greatest hits: the Russian spy, the nuclear materials, the Caribbean smuggling ring. Quite a resume for someone asking to fly passengers again. Mr. Williams, the panel chief said, adjusting her glasses, you've been through extraordinary circumstances. Why should we trust you with lives again? Because I've already proven you can. Every decision I made, even the wrong ones, was about protecting people. I've never put a passenger at risk. I never would. You lied about owning cargo aircraft. I did. But those lies never affected my performance as a commercial pilot or federal air marshal. You flew illegal weapons to Haiti. Under FBI supervision, as part of an undercover operation that resulted in 17 arrests and the disruption of a major trafficking network. They asked more questions, 2 hours worth, dissecting every choice I'd made since the day Rupert Davis walked into my life. I answered honestly, no point in lying anymore. That was the old Monty. We'll review your case and notify you within 30 days, the panel chief finally said. Thank you for your testimony. Outside, Pete was waiting with coffee that didn't smell burnt. How'd it go, boss? I'm not your boss anymore, Pete. You run the company now. Technically, but everyone still thinks of it as yours. Then everyone's wrong. We walked to his car, a sensible Honda that suited the new reality. My truck had been sold, along with most of my possessions. Traveling light seemed appropriate for whatever came next. The Phoenix contract's going well, Pete said as we drove. 6 planes flying, all legitimate cargo. We're actually turning a profit. Good. The employees? All still here. Even Tom Morrison, though he mostly keeps to himself now. Tom. Another casualty of trust, though we'd both survived. Take care of them, Pete. Where are you going? I don't know yet. Somewhere nobody knows my name. That's nowhere, boss. You're famous now. The pilot who saved America, remember? Infamous is more like it. Pete dropped me at my apartment, not the house. That had been sold, too. Just a 1-bedroom near the airport, month-to-month lease, no commitments. Inside, I found a package waiting. Seattle postmark. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. It was a photo from our wedding day, the one where we're laughing at something off-camera, completely unguarded, completely happy. On the back, Philippa had written, "This was real. Remember that. P." I sat on my rented couch in my rented apartment, holding proof of a life that no longer existed, and tried to feel something other than hollow. My phone rang. Director Harrison. Captain Williams, I heard about your hearing today. News travels fast. Everything about you travels fast. You're a person of interest to multiple agencies. Lucky me. Actually, yes, I have a proposition. I'm retired. From flying commercial routes, maybe, but men like you don't really retire. They just find new missions. I'm done with missions. This one's different. Training. We want you to develop a program for pilots, how to recognize threats, how to respond, how to survive situations like yours. You want me to teach people how to be better victims? I want you to teach them how to be survivors, like you. I thought about it. Teaching. Passing on hard-won knowledge. It wasn't flying, but it was something. Where? Quantico initially, then various locations as needed. Good pay, good benefits, and most importantly, you'd be saving lives without risking your own. I'll think about it. Think fast. Offer expires in 48 hours. That night, I walked Virginia Beach one last time. The boardwalk was quiet, off-season tourists gone home. Mrs. Henderson was on her porch when I passed the old house. "Monty, I heard you were back. Just passing through. The new owners are nice. Young couple expecting their first child. Good. It's a good house for a family." "It was," she said gently. "How's Philippa?" "She's good. Seattle, new job." "And you?" "I'm figuring it out." She nodded, understanding without details. "You know, my Harold was in Korea. Came back different. Took him years to figure out who he was after. But he did figure it out." "What was the secret?" "No secret. Just time and the decision to stop looking backward." I thanked her and continued walking, her words echoing. Stop looking backward. Easy to say, harder when your past kept making headlines. At the beach, I sat on the sand and watched planes taking off from Norfolk International, lights against the dark sky. Each one following its flight path, origin to destination, no deviations. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized the style. "Saw the news about your hearing. Proud of you for trying. Your biggest mistake." Philippa. Even now, even apart, she was watching. Caring. I texted back. "Mistakes are just lessons with poor timing." Her response was immediate. "Some teacher you'll make. Harrison offered me a job, training. Take it." "Why?" "Because you're good at surviving, Monty. Teach others." "Is that your professional opinion, doctor?" "It's my personal opinion, from someone who knows you better than you know yourself." I stared at the phone, wanting to say more. To tell her I missed her, that Seattle was too far, that forgiveness and trust were rebuilding slowly, like tissue after trauma. Instead, I typed, "Take care of yourself. You too, Sky Marshal." The next morning, I called Harrison and accepted the position. Then I called the moving company, not that there was much to move. Then I sat in my empty apartment and planned my new flight path. No more double life, no more secrets. Just Monty Williams, instructor, teaching others how to navigate the storms that could tear your life apart. The FAA called that afternoon. My license was reinstated with restrictions. No commercial passenger flights for 2 years, but charter and cargo were approved. I celebrated by myself with a beer and a sunset, watching the world turn gold and pink and finally dark. 3 days later, I drove to Quantico, Virginia to begin my new life. The guard at the gate checked my credentials 3 times, probably recognizing my name. "Welcome to the FBI Academy, Mr. Williams." "Thanks." The training facility was impressive simulators, classrooms, enough technology to make NASA jealous. My office was small but had a window, which was more than I'd expected. Harrison met me there, along with a woman I didn't recognize. "Captain Williams, this is Dr. Sarah Martinez, our Psychological Services Director. She'll be working with you on the curriculum." "Psychological services?" "The trauma aspect," Dr. Martinez explained. "You didn't just survive physical threats. You survived betrayal, moral injury, identity crisis. That's what we need you to teach, not just the tactics, but the psychology." "I'm not a psychologist." "No, but you're a case study. Your experiences, properly processed and structured, could save lives." "Properly processed. You mean therapy?" "I mean consultation, though therapy wouldn't hurt." Harrison left us to discuss the program. Dr. Martinez was thorough, asking about every decision point, every moment of doubt, every small victory that had kept me functional. "You know what's remarkable about your story?" she said after 3 hours of discussion. "That I survived. That you maintained your moral center. Despite everything, the betrayals, the violence, the impossible choices, you never became what you were fighting against." "I flew guns to Haiti. To prevent a larger catastrophe. Context matters, Captain." "Does it? Because those guns killed people. And not flying them would have killed you and accomplished nothing. That's the reality we're preparing people for. Sometimes there are no good choices, only necessary ones. We worked for a week building the curriculum. Threat assessment, emergency procedures, psychological resilience, decision-making under extreme stress. It was like mapping my own journey through hell, but with exit signs for the next travelers. The first class was 12 pilots, commercial, military, some transitioning federal air marshals. They sat looking at me with expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism. "I'm not here to teach you to fly," I began. "You already know that. I'm here to teach you what happens when flying becomes secondary to surviving." I told them about Davis, about the moment I realized my wife was compromised, about choosing between bad and worse options at 30,000 feet. "The hardest part isn't the danger," I said. "It's afterward. It's rebuilding when everything you trusted is gone." One pilot raised his hand. "Did you ever regret it? Getting involved?" "Every day, and never, both at once." "That doesn't make sense." "It will if you're ever in that position, and I hope you never are." We ran simulations, hijackings, mechanical failures, compromised crew members. I watched them make decisions, saw them struggle with scenarios that had no perfect solutions. "You're hesitating," I told one pilot who couldn't decide whether to trust a suspicious passenger claiming to be law enforcement. "Why?" "I don't want to make the wrong choice." "There is no wrong choice. There's only the choice you make and living with it. Hesitation is the enemy." "But what if doesn't matter at 30,000 feet? You make the best decision with the information you have, then you commit to it fully." After class, Dr. Martinez found me in my office. "You're good at this." "I'm just telling them what I learned the hard way." "That's what makes you good at it. You're not theorizing, you're remembering. Some things I'd rather forget, but you won't. And that's what makes you valuable here." She was right. Every night I went back to my small apartment near Quantico and remembered Davis's cold eyes, Philippa's tears, the weight of weapons I'd delivered to dangerous men, but I also remembered the lives saved, the nuclear disaster prevented, the network dismantled. On weekends, I'd drive to small airports and rent planes, flying nowhere in particular. Just me in the sky, no cargo, no secrets, no mission, except to remember why I'd loved flying in the first place. One Saturday, 3 months into the teaching job, I was pre-flighting a rental Cessna when I heard a familiar voice. "Still pre-flight like you're going to war." Tom Morrison stood there, older, grayer, but still Tom. "Old habits," I said. "Yeah." He shifted awkwardly. "Heard you were teaching now. Heard you were still with Pete. He's a good boss, learned from the best." We stood there, two men who'd trusted and been betrayed, who'd survived different versions of the same storm. "I'm sorry," Tom said finally, "for everything." "I know." "Is that forgiveness?" "It's acknowledgement. Forgiveness takes time." "Fair enough." He started to leave, then turned back. "You know, I learned something through all this." "What's that?" "Trust isn't about being right about people. It's about being willing to be wrong." He left me with that thought, and I finished my pre-flight, thinking about trust and risk and the courage to be wrong. The flight that day was perfect clear skies, smooth air, the Chesapeake Bay spread out below like a map of possibilities. For the first time in months, I felt something like peace. Not happiness that would take longer, not wholeness some breaks don't fully heal, but peace, the kind that comes from accepting your scars and continuing anyway. I landed as the sun set, painting the world gold. Tomorrow I'd teach another class, share another piece of hard-won wisdom. Next month I'd mark a year since Davis walked into my life. But tonight, I was just a pilot who'd survived his own crash and learned to fly again. That had to be enough, because it was all I had. Chapter 12. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, exactly 18 months after Davis died on that Norfolk tarmac. "Monty, I know you probably won't read this, but I'm writing anyway. I'm getting married next month. He's a good man, another doctor, someone who's never heard of Rupert Davis or nuclear smuggling or any of it. I wanted you to know, not to hurt you, but because you deserve to know I'm okay. I'm happy. I hope you are too. P." I read it 3 times, waiting to feel something sharp. Instead, there was only a dull ache, like an old injury when the weather changes. "You all right?" Dr. Martinez asked from my doorway. We'd been working together long enough that she could read my moods. "My ex-wife is getting married. How do you feel about that?" "Like a chapter's finally closing. That's healthy. Is it? Or is it just resignation?" "Sometimes they're the same thing." I deleted the email, then recovered it from trash, then archived it. Some things you can't quite let go of even when you should. That afternoon, I taught my advanced class pilots who'd already been through one crisis and were training for worse. They were my favorites. These walking wounded who'd learned that survival was more than just not dying. "Today we're talking about afterwards," I said, "the part nobody prepares you for. When the threat's gone, but the hypervigilance remains." "PTSD?" asked Captain Jessica Reeves, a commercial pilot who'd survived a hijacking attempt. "Call it what you want. The label matters less than the reality. You will be different after. The question is whether different means broken. Aren't they the same? No. Broken means you can't function. Different means you function differently. I can't fly a plane anymore without checking for trackers. That's different. If I couldn't fly at all, that would be broken." We talked about the small accommodations always sitting facing doors, checking weather obsessively even when not flying, the way certain sounds could transport you back instantly. "The key," I said, "is integration, not elimination. You integrate the vigilance into normal life until it becomes just another part of who you are." After class, Director Harrison found me in the simulator room, where I was programming a new scenario based on the Haiti crash. "Good class today." "You were watching?" "I watch everything. Occupational hazard." He sat down at the instructor's console. "You've been here 18 months. Happy?" "Content." "That's not the same thing." "It's close enough." "Is it?" "Because Phoenix Security just called. They want to hire you as their primary pilot. Double what we're paying, international routes, completely legitimate cargo." "You trying to get rid of me?" "I'm trying to give you options. You're a pilot, Monty, not a teacher." This is useful, but it's not who you are. Who I was got people killed. Who you were saved thousands of lives. Don't let the small losses obscure the big wins. That night I called Pete. "Phoenix wants me to fly for them." "I know. They called me first, wanted to know if you were stable." "What did you tell them?" "The truth, that you're the most stable, unstable person I know." "Thanks, I think." "You should take it, Monty. Get back in the air properly. Teaching's fine, but you're a pilot." "I was a pilot, now I'm something else." "You're someone who survived the worst and came out the other side. That makes you exactly who Phoenix needs." After we hung up, I walked the Quantico grounds thinking. The FBI Academy was safe, predictable, useful. But Pete was right. I was a pilot pretending to be something else. My phone rang. Unknown international number. "Captain Williams? This is Michael Sterling, Phoenix Security. I understand Harrison told you about our offer." "He mentioned it. I'd like to discuss it in person. Can you come to Miami tomorrow?" "That's sudden. Our needs are immediate. We have a contract requiring someone with your specific skills, legitimate cargo, but to challenging locations, places where your experience with hostile situations would be invaluable." "Where?" "Eastern Europe, some Middle East routes, all legal, all sanctioned, but not without risk." "Why me?" "Because you've already been through hell and know the way out. Our clients need that assurance." I agreed to the meeting, bought a ticket to Miami. That night I couldn't sleep, thinking about cockpits and cargo, about the sky calling me back. The next morning, Dr. Martinez cornered me before I left. "You're taking the Phoenix job." "I'm considering it." "No, you've already decided, I can see it. You're already half gone." "Maybe. It's okay, you know. To want more than safety. Survival isn't just about being alive, it's about feeling alive." "Flying into danger makes me feel alive?" "Flying despite the danger makes you feel alive. There's a difference." The meeting in Miami was in a gleaming office tower, all glass and steel and efficiency. Sterling was ex-RAF, silver-haired, with the kind of calm that came from surviving his own storms. "Your reputation precedes you," he said, gesturing to a chair. "Which reputation? The hero or the criminal?" "Both. That's what makes you perfect for us. You understand moral ambiguity. I understand necessity. Same thing, different words. He pulled out a tablet, showed me routes. Medical supplies to Ukraine, food aid to Syria, evacuation flights from various hotspots, all humanitarian, all legal, but all requiring someone who won't panic when things go sideways. Things always go sideways. Exactly why we need you. The money was incredible. The risk was manageable. The opportunity to fly again, really fly, was irresistible. I'll need a co-pilot I trust. Done. And operational autonomy. I decide if a situation's too dangerous. Agreed. When would I start? Monday, if you're ready. Monday. 4 days to close one chapter and open another. I'm ready. Flying back to Virginia, I thought about circles and spirals, about ending up where you started but different. I was going back to flying cargo, but legally this time. Back to risk, but calculated. Back to the sky, but with clearer vision. That evening, I submitted my resignation to Harrison. He wasn't surprised. "Keep the consulting arrangement," he said. "Teach a quarterly class. We need your experience." "You need my horror stories." "Those too." I spent the weekend packing, which didn't take long, selling furniture I'd never really owned, just borrowed, saying goodbye to students who'd become something like friends. Sunday night, I stood on Virginia Beach one last time. The moon was full, turning the ocean silver, just like the night Philippa and I had walked here planning a future that never came. My phone buzzed. A message from her. "Heard about Phoenix. Fly safe." I almost didn't respond. Then, "Congratulations on the engagement. Be happy." You too. 2 words that held 3 years of history, love, betrayal, and finally, release. Monday morning, I drove to Miami in a rental car, watching the landscape change from familiar to foreign. At Phoenix's private hangar, a Gulfstream G650 waited sleek, powerful, everything my secret cargo planes had never been. "Beautiful, isn't she?" Sterling said, appearing beside me. "She's perfect. Your co-pilot arrives tomorrow. James Rodriguez, you've worked with him before." Rodriguez, one of my pilots from the old company, someone who'd stayed clean through everything. Good choice. We thought so. Your first mission is Thursday medical supplies to Kyiv. Straightforward run, but it'll let you get comfortable with the aircraft. I spent 3 days learning the Gulfstream systems, marveling at equipment that wasn't held together by patches and prayer. Everything was state-of-the-art, maintained perfectly, legal down to the last rivet. Thursday dawn, Rodriguez and I sat in the cockpit running pre-flight checks. "Just like old times," he said. "Nothing like old times. This is legitimate." "I know. Feels weird, doesn't it?" "Weird but good." We took off into a perfect sunrise, climbing to 41,000 feet where the sky was deep blue and the world below looked manageable. The flight to Kyiv was smooth, professional, exactly what flying should be. The return flight, I let Rodriguez take the controls while I looked out at the Atlantic passing below. Somewhere down there was the wreckage of my old life, crashed planes, broken trust, abandoned dreams. But up here was something new. Not redemption, that was too grand a word. Just possibility. The chance to fly straight and level after so much turbulence. 6 months later, I was in a refugee camp in Jordan, supervising the unloading of food supplies when my phone rang. "Monty, it's Tom Morrison." "Tom, what's wrong?" "Nothing, Pete had a heart attack. He's okay, stable, but he can't run the company anymore. The employees voted. They want you to come back. I'm under contract with Phoenix." "I know, but think about it. Your company, your people, need you. It's not my company anymore. It'll always be your company, Monty. You built it, saved it, nearly died for it." After we hung up, I stood in the desert heat thinking about loyalty and obligation, about circles completing themselves. That night, I called Sterling. "I need to go home." "The company in Norfolk?" "My company." "I figured this day would come. You're a builder, Monty, not just a pilot. Go build." 2 weeks later, I stood in the familiar hangar in Norfolk, looking at planes I'd once owned secretly, then lost, then abandoned. The employees were gathered, waiting. I'm not the same man who left, I told them. I can't promise easy or safe or predictable, but I can promise honest. No more secrets, no more double life. We fly straight or we don't fly at all. They voted unanimously to make me CEO again. Even Tom Morrison raised his hand. That night, I sat in my old office, now my new office, and wrote a business plan. Legitimate cargo, humanitarian focus, complete transparency, the anti-Davis model. My phone rang. Philippa. Heard you're back in Norfolk. News travels. Are you happy? I'm home. That's not the same thing. It's close enough. Is it? I thought about it. Yeah, it is. How's married life? Different. Good different, but different. I'm glad. Really? Really. You deserve happiness, Philippa. We both do. Just maybe not together. Maybe not together. We talked for a few more minutes, safe topics, careful words. Then she said goodbye, probably for the last time. I hung up and looked around the office. Photos on the walls of planes and pilots, maps of routes flown and yet to fly. This was who I was, not a spy, not a hero, not a victim. Just a pilot who'd learned to fly through storms and come out the other side. The next morning, I filed a flight plan for a cargo run to Charleston. Simple route, legitimate cargo, no secrets. As the wheels left the ground, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Pure, uncomplicated joy. The horizon stretched endless ahead, full of possibilities that didn't require lies or betrayal or sacrifice. Just skill and courage and the willingness to keep flying despite everything that had tried to ground me. At 10,000 feet, I leveled off and looked at the sunrise painting the clouds gold. Somewhere, Philippa was starting her new life. Somewhere, Davis's victims were rebuilding. Somewhere, the world kept turning, indifferent to our small dramas. But here, in this cockpit, in this moment, I was exactly where I belonged. Not the same pilot who'd started this journey, but perhaps a better one. Scarred but skilled, wounded but wise, grounded but still reaching for the sky. The radio crackled, "November 77 Alpha, you're cleared to climb to flight level 300. 77 Alpha climbing to 300, I responded, pulling back on the yoke. The plane rose smoothly, powerfully, inevitably. Like hope, like forgiveness, like a second chance earned through suffering. This was my horizon, now clear skies, honest flight, and the knowledge that I'd survived the worst and could handle whatever came next. Monty Williams, cargo pilot, survivor, and finally free. What struck me most about Monty's story wasn't the conspiracy or the danger, it was how two people who genuinely loved each other could cause so much damage trying to protect that love. It makes you wonder, in a marriage, is complete honesty always the right choice? Or are some secrets actually acts of love? I'm curious what others think. Was Philippa a hero for sacrificing their marriage to save him? Or did she betray something sacred that no threat could justify breaking?